Good morning, Smite fans. A lot of great memories in that video package and a lot of great memories to be made today. And today starts with the Tiebreaker Gauntlet on the road to Vegas that has gotten oh so closer after an exciting week of LAN. It's Malum and Trelly to start your morning off. A little bit of Anthony Squared to get crazy with it. And I'm beyond excited. I mean, the games yesterday ended in the most shocking way possible where we were all so confident. Food Drive for Globe. They're legit. They can't be stopped. They got stopped. they met up against Team Risk, and it looked just like the Team Risk that we saw in playoffs. And they've figured out something on this patch. And, speaking of this patch, CA7 is what we're playing on if you are just tuning in today for the first day. And there's a lot to kind of take note of. Baron, Samdi, Nuwa, and Thor, they're the competitively banned gods right now. And again, CA7, so no CA8, not going to see the Medusas of the world at the moment, which we'll see those soon in Vegas, so don't worry. And kind of one of the more important things is noting the why, and the big why is just making sure everyone's playing on the same page. They had enough time to prepare for this event, Trelly.
Absolutely, and the thing is, we have seen teams sort of understand the meta, we've seen new metas form, and it's all about adaptation as far as I've seen. Because again, the reason we're in a tiebreaker here is because 3 different teams have been able to sort of beat each other, which means as this tournament has came through, adaptations have been made, the meta has shifted. And my question is, who went home or to their hotel last night and did the best prep? That's probably what we're going to see on the battleground today, whoever is able to claim that top seed, because you gotta just pay attention to everything that has happened so far. Oh, the duo strat is so strong. Oh, we need to get focus on Yamoja or Sobek, and oh my gosh, Cupid is back in the meta. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to figure out day of. It's really one of those things you kind of have to step back from the whole event and say, okay, we need to lock in exactly where things went right, where things went wrong, and then come in today with a laser-focused strategy.
We'll have some time to talk and really dive deep on that aspect of and what's been popping up in those metas currently. But I think it's important also to kind of zoom out and look at the schedule, right? We got to look at how many games we've got going on and what we're starting off with. So again, this is the tiebreaker for Group B. You see Food Drive for Globe, Smokebreak, and Team Risk. They've all beat each other up. They've adapted to each other, as Trelly said, and that has gotten us to this point. And we're starting off with Food Drive for Globe versus Smokebreak, which to me is one I'm very excited about in particular because I think of what Food Drive for Globe has proven so far this LAN, and I think of how Smokebreak looks so renewed so far in this LAN, a completely different team. They'll be followed by Team Risk versus Food Drive, and ending off will be Smokebreak versus Team Risk. Now, we'll be done with tiebreakers by the end because if somehow we end up with another tiebreaker, then we're going to look at the fastest game time win and then also head-to-head for the 2 teams that would be tied. So no matter what happens, at the end of this gauntlet, we're going to have our seating figured out for the brackets they'll be playing later on today, closer to 1 o'clock. It's a full day of Smite 2, so if you have been wanting more and more Smite 2, I've got so much good news for you.
Yeah, and so if you forgot or if you're just tuning in, Smokebreak beat Team Risk. Team Risk beat Food Drive beat Smokebreak. That's why we're here. So we got to figure out again who's going to be the top dog. And we did get to talk to Genetics earlier on yesterday, or probably 2 days ago now. I kind of forget at this point.
It's all adding up.
And he was just mentioning how the meta that Smokebreak brought to them on day 1 was just not what they expected, and they got taken aback by it. But they've been looking cleaner now. So, I think Smokebreak, they can't rely on just, bringing new strats to the table because that's something that Food Drive's been ready for, right? It's so interesting to have this. I was going to say square. It's obviously, there's 3. It's a triangle of sorts.
You were also making a circle motion.
Yeah, I was trying to make some sort of flow state, make a water.
Right.
Whatever it is, these teams are like, they were kryptonite towards each other, but it's way different now.
I definitely follow through.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and you talked about flow state, right? One team entered in flow state, and I feel like Food Drive for Globe had some kind of essence of what you were expecting of they can perform. They'd shown the hints. Smokebreak, on the other hand, they had a tougher path on the way, and they showed up at LAN, and man, did they show up. There was the obviously notable replacement of I Silenced for the LAN with Elion, which added questions, but those questions were answered in the very first game we saw, really, from them, with perfect play, awesome calls, and we talked a lot about the meta evolving and kind of catching teams like Team Risk off guard, and Smokebreak, they started things off with that. And active items is a big conversation we're going to have, and they've jumped up and become even more valuable so far. We've seen large usage from Smoke Break and Team Risk, for that matter, with both really being into those active items. So Smoke Break is a team that really has... They surpassed my expectations, but they did it in ways that I don't think many people could have predicted.
And you do have to consider the fact that these are best of ones, right? It's not as if you have to bring an airtight strategy for possibly 3 games. You just have to come out swinging in game number 1 and just knock the enemy team off their rhythm. So I think this is the kind of day where we'll see more invades or more weird starts with lane swaps, or we're just going to all hide in the grass at your speed buff.
We've already seen a backdoor this week, too.
Exactly. Those are the kind of plays that can work once and just ruin your seeding, right? So just I'm expecting, especially from a team like Smokebreak, who has the ability to just group off a call like LAN brings that sort of energy to a team. So I wouldn't be surprised if we spawn in, we just look at the map, and they're already doing something strange that you can't exactly prepare for.
Well, one team that we're hoping has prepared to get back to what they were figuring out so quickly is Food Drive for Globe, because they were a team that was getting, rightfully so, a lot of hype up the closer we were getting to LAN. As, man, these guys really came out of nowhere. But if you've been watching all the esports for SMITE 2, and I mean from the very beginning when we had our very first closed alpha tournaments that were preluding to the Founders Series, then you knew this team was serious. If you follow the community, you've seen how they've been doing in tournaments like SMITE Prime. They've done fantastic. They just needed to put it all together on the big stages, and they did. But one problem that has plagued Food Drive for Globe throughout the Founders Series is there has been a couple of games, time and time again, where one thing will go wrong and they just implode. And unfortunately for Food Drive for Globe fans, it happened yesterday against Team Risk.
Yeah, and again, a best of one setting is where you cannot have that, right? Like you can't have the, oh, we had a rough game 1, we'll bounce back. You need to bounce back immediately in the middle of the game, because your chances of fighting for first seed end if you have one of those just mental booms. So I think Food Drive for Globe, like you said, they have received a lot of praise, and rightfully so. They have certainly earned it. But here they got to come with that same ability that we were just talking about for Smoke Break, to be able to adapt on the fly if something new is thrown at them. They have always been able to play different strategies. Like Tegveer is super versatile in that ADC role, sometimes playing things like Susano, sometimes going back to the Zeus, but not necessarily going the auto attack variant. Like, there's a lot that I'm expecting from them that is going to shift the way that we usually expect to see from picks and bans. And then also just like the traditional starts around the map, because they bring that level of ingenuity where they can just play anything that they've practiced before.
And I like that you point that out too, because one really beneficial thing overall is these are the teams we'll see in Vegas. They don't have to hold strategies for Vegas, because Vegas will be played on a very, very different patch,
completely different game,
very, very different circumstances, a completely different game.
Yep.
Like you said, so they don't have to hold anything back. I mean, if you hold something back, the only argument would be for the games later on today, post tiebreakers. But for these tiebreaker games, there's no reason not to throw every strat that you have at the other team, to throw the whole kitchen sink and hope that one of those things you can bring out will work correctly.
The question is, how do you decide what's the best strat? Because again, it's a best of one. You can't be like, oh, we've got a really sick Athena solo game that we could try, or we want to play Baron in the mid lane, try out this. You only get one chance. So I'm really curious. I think that the one god you decide to ban is also going to be very important here, because there's been a lot that's running the meta so far. There's been some throwaway bans, like, oh, we don't want to deal with Chalk, or, we know that Zeus is really powerful, or there's some pick that you guys like to go to. But things like Sobek, things like Yamoja, those are still going to be on the forefront of everyone's mind. I think Loki is going to be a very contested pick in this set. And it not only is about who's first pick, who's second pick, but it's also about, can we afford to give up this character that could just ruin our game from the start? These are the kind of things that they thought about last night. I imagine they're both coming in with a laser tight strategy.
Yeah, and how much homework was enough homework? What was too much to overthink about? I think of characters like the Yamoja when I look at players like LAN, who had the pixel perfect reverse rebuke in this tournament, the ultimate that cut off every angle that there was, that started off the chaos of our week. And I also think about characters like Loki for Valo, where he's just looked like the hyper carry of the tournament, comparable to Rat Milk's Thanatos even, or how Johnny has played Fenrir a few times. If you can lock down that Loki, there's a lot to it. And then you made a great point talking about Tegvir in the ADC role, because that's stressful for picks and bans because you have no clue what that guy is going to play.
You have no idea, and that's the thing. He could go back to his Susano ADC. He could just stick with the Jingwei's turn that we've seen so much of, but we'll have to find out.
Yeah, exactly. We have to find out by getting into picks and bans and seeing where we go with the day. Our order side is Smoke Break, and our chaos side is Food Drive for Globe, which means that the Loki is always possible, but you got to be smart with your first man. Poseidon is the choice to take it away from Globe.
And this is what I'm talking about. These are not the bans you would expect to see. Definitely good, but these are only bans that'll come through after you've paid a bit of attention this weekend, right? You've seen, oh, Globe really likes this Poseidon, we should try and take it away. I can't imagine Yamoja isn't on the forefront of Food Drive for Globe's mind here. Smokebreak made their decision. They think Sobek is going to be a bit more valuable, whether that's over towards solo or support. Yet to be determined, but yeah, there's no way Yamoja was going undrafted in that top 2 there for Food Drive.
So we've got traditional ADC for Tegvir. We've got the Yemo for Happen, which has not been my favorite pick for Happen. I was having this conversation with Bobby yesterday, but I love when Happen plays something more aggressive. Happen's not been my favorite person to see in passive supports. Now it's into a Fenrir Sobek Amaterasu, so you want to talk about aggression. That's Smoke Break right now.
Yeah, Ama, Fenrir tells me we probably do have a Sobek support this time around. As far as Smoke Break goes, I like what they've done so far, but the Raw from Food Drive for Globe, I mean, definitely not a bad pickup. A lot of healing so far.
Nemesis.
I was going to say, the Nem is definitely something that Valo has went to a couple times now. This Sunbeam Bow meta out of the jungle has definitely came through, and it is going to get pretty good value out of that Fenrir, so I can see it. There's a lot of hard CC coming from Sobek and Ama, but you try to avoid them until you have your ultimate, and then you can kind of stay away. I imagine Jingwei is going to be the pick here, because again, CERN and Jingwei,
they got to go together, right?
They are just the yin and yang there, but as far as a mid laner, oh, there you go. Okay,
wow.
Cuckoo. Wow, I didn't expect that.
We have not seen that in a hot minute, but hey, when you look at the side of Smoke Break, Zap7 was one of the Cuckoo players that we saw. Now, I'd be remiss not to mention how Globe performed on this Raw yesterday. Despite all the roughness that we saw from Food Drive for Globe, the Raw in particular, I mean, I must have heard Jorby say, oh, Globe hits 3 with a snipe like 7 times throughout game number 2. So a great pickup for Globe. The Hades now, that's kind of the last wrench in things.
Do you see how quick that picks and bans though? That really reinforces the thought to me that these guys had this draft in their head last night, right? Like they both
reading the flashcard.
Yeah, both of these squads got exactly what they wanted. I assume Globe expected not to get the Poseidon today. The Morgan ban may have been a wrench, but probably expected at this point. So you have a lot of healing on the side of Food Drive. They are going to have to be anti-heal on the forefront of your mind if you're Smoke Break. You've got a little bit of self-sustain here, but these delayed fights are not going to be in your favor. When you've got to deal with Yamoja and Raw, you need to go all in, which luckily Cuckoo, Fenrir, that's exactly what they want, right? We're going to pick someone up, we're going to blow them up with Spirit of the Nine Winds, and now it's an uneven fight. Not to mention, the Execute is here. I mean, Sobek has been so lethal this tournament because you don't really have to worry about blowing up the squishies. You can just execute a tank.
The executes, the lethality's there, the objectives are going to be crazy, but all these things, they require casters, and I've got just the pair for you. Let's send it over to him.
That's right. Bonus Smite for us here on this fine Sunday morning is Food Drive for Globe and Smoke Break battle it out in our first tiebreaker match, just a best of one, as Dolson, Aggro, and Doug, we bringing it to you here this fine morning. Aggro, lots to play for in these individual matchups here. Can you avoid just even having to play later on today at all? Can you avoid matching up against some of the really good teams from Group A? I mean, there's a lot that can change based on how these next 3 individual games pan out.
Without a doubt. I mean, first seed is a huge boon for anyone who can get it. Not having to play, getting yourself in a position to have a much easier bracket at Vegas is obviously huge, but as you mentioned, even the difference between the second and third seed's pretty big. Third seed would play Borscht. Second seed plays Mockingbird.
Yep.
No disrespect to Mockingbird, but Borscht has certainly looked like a team that's going to give you a little bit more trouble.
Well, even analytically,
so
they're a higher seed.
They're a higher
right?
seed, right? That's just math, if you ask me. So, pretty important couple tiebreaker games here to start us off.
Well, these are fun because all of these teams taking games off one another, so we get to see how they've adapted, changed up their play styles, but it's sort of a fun opposite conversation. You talk about best of fives and how the dynamic changes. Now you're just in best of ones, the opposite end. You're throwing out what you got in your one chance against this one team here today. We'll see every team play a couple of times. Early meetings in the jungle, mainly over here on left, 3v3, mid laners and soul laners all on their lonesome over on the right side of the map, but it's Smokebreak a bit more aggressive, maybe considering this early 3v3 to be a bit stronger for them. Good damage from Echrome and a pluck onto Valo. It's the perfect target, and that's forced the blink away. LAN on it early on with his duo laner.
Absolutely smurfs it, man. I mean, he sunders off the purple. He confirms it for his team. He gets the blink out from Valo. Just picture perfect here from LAN. And I love this. Why let Valo continue to farm? My man's is half HP, no relic. Just a little too late. The clear for Valo just good enough to make sure that he doesn't have to contest with LAN on that speed.
LAN, fun player to watch. You know, really gets up and at him early this morning. Sends out a post. He's excited to get playing with this Smokebreak team. And look, the duo lane of Smokebreak, you know, circumstances be what they may, LAN comes in for this event. Feels like LAN and Echrome have been on the same page, even in moments like that. That requires teamwork, right?
Yep.
To be on the same page in moments like that and play those moments right.
Yep, they've played really well, and it doesn't look like LAN is just subbing in, and I can tell you he's definitely not played a whole lot of games with Echrome in his career, right? That been in two separate regions. They don't have a lot of natural or already established synergy, I should say, but Andy's been around the block. He's played on so many different teams. He's played so many different roles. He knows how to be a teammate now, and I think that's been very clear with how well he's played during this time.
Well, a good early start for Smokebreak over on the left side of the map. But over here in mid, I'm intrigued how this matchup will break out. A couple skill shot ultimates between Sap7 and Globe. It'll keep things, keep eyebrows raised around objectives. I'm considering Gold Fury steals, Fire Giant steals, should we be fortunate enough to get into moments like that. But often, Aggro, my mind goes to what's the setup look like around those ultimates? Is one mid laner cleaner, more easy, more facilitated in those moments? Those are questions I tend to ask myself when I see those characters locked in.
Absolutely, it's the Kukulkan for Sap7, and it really is not close. Pluck you can ult off of. Jump stun from Johnny you can ult off of. Ragnarok is obviously the easiest one in the game, but even Ama ult is very simple. Sap, I love the Kukulkan pick. You know, it isn't something that we've seen a lot of, as evidenced by Trelly and Malum's reaction on the desk. But I think it was an excellent pick here because of all the setup for Smokebreak, because it contests objective secure, like with Globe's ultimate. But it's also great slow immunity against a bunch of gods that slows are how they kill you. Ra slows you down. That 2 slow is really potent. Now you've got slow immunity with the 2 there for Kukulkan. And so does Valo's Nemesis, relies on those slows. Even Yamoja really relies on slows a lot of the time to set up for her stun. Sap can immune all of that with the 2 very simply. Yep. So I think it's an excellent pick for Smokebreak, and I'm expecting a big game from him.
I'm thinking back to the Sap7 game I casted yesterday with, or we watched yesterday with Smokebreak. Poor Sap was just chosen time and time again. Poseidon in game 1, like 0-4, 0-5, really tough start, but ended up not mattering by the end of that matchup. And so, of course, moments like that make you think about junglers. Johnny, one of the fastest paced junglers we've got here in this tournament. And Valo's been really surprising. So much fun to watch and so important for this food drive for Globe team. And so as we start to hit that level 5 mark, I expect to see Johnny really active early in this game.
This is the type of pick that you want to be active early on, no doubt. But I think that Smokebreak's a team that historically has always been pretty willing to play a slower pace.
Also slow things down.
They know how to play the late game fights. Benko and Johnny have been playing together for years at this point, so they know how each other want to play a lane versus play the team fights. And I think that their comfort level in that has been pretty evident. I think that Food Drive is a team that has been higher paced. You know, no surprise coming from NA, a region that is typically a little faster paced than EMEA historically. But it would not surprise me if Food Drive is the one trying to make stuff happen earlier than Smokebreak. But Johnny's flexible. You know, he can do whatever is required, and if it needs him to put the pedal to the metal a little early, then he'll be there.
Was over on right. No ultimate for Karmic on the Hades, and was about half HP. but did not find that opening over in mid. Both junglers hover as well. Valo, a few moments ago, hit level 5 on the Nemesis. So the shred and the slow could be really potent depending on where these junglers turn their eyes. Over in duo lane, we saw the clash around purple buff early in this game, but has relatively been quiet after that. Leon and Echrome happy to sit back, farm things up as well. Feels like this Sobek-Yemoja matchup aggro is just a mainstay here this weekend. One of the consistencies in our meta has been these two supports.
And I think it's a really good indication of how strong Yemoja is on turning engagements, that Sobek just feels like he can't pluck into that matchup ever. If he does, then it's going to be River's Rebuke, and yes, Sobek can use his ultimate in order to get underneath those walls, but you just don't necessarily want to be putting yourself in that spot that easily, because the chain stuns are just real easy for Happen to go into after you pluck in. But I will say I think Lurking in the Waters is a lower value ultimate than River's Rebuke, so if you're looking to set up a play, I wouldn't be surprised to see Elion start with a pluck, get that River's Rebuke, trade his ultimate, and then they try and make something happen.
Everyone from Smokebreak over here on left. The pluck connects on Valo, blink away, and double dash. Nemesis with that blink can get out of dodge really quickly. Food Drive and Smokebreak collapsing in on the Fury, and Johnny has gotten the first objective of the game. The River's Rebuke crashes down, and it's given first blood right back to Valo. Objective to Smokebreak, first kill to Food Drive for Globe. But aggro, there still may be a chase on.
Karmic has made his rotation over, and Elion's got nowhere to go.
Globe adds another sap, 7 leaps away. Man, Food Drive for Globe, they were late on the uptake around that Fury, but when they joined in the fight, they did it swiftly.
Man, I just think Johnny was just not patient enough, though. I guess it's not over yet. Karmic still ends up getting caught, but that fight starts in a way that it feels like it should have been so easy for Smokebreak. Great pluck onto Valo. He doesn't have any idea that Elion is waiting around that corner, but then Johnny jumps over and allows him to escape.
Should be a kill here for Benko. If nothing else, Johnny and the rest of the team round about from the mid lane. Globe in some serious trouble. Of course, movement speed. Maybe get him beneath the tower. Benko doesn't need the help and will actually get all the options from that kill and an invade. So Smokebreak able to pull back a couple after the fact there, aggro. I mean, that early Gold Fury, you're feeling good, you're trying to get out, you hand back a couple of kills, but then after that, Smokebreak stack up a couple. So when it all settles, we're actually relatively even and in the same spot from when that Fury started.
But remember that in Smite 2, these Furies end up stacking with those benefits. So getting a Gold Fury and trading some kills, that permanent buff that you're going to be getting from the Gold Fury, the first one being that out of base movement speed, means that you're building towards the stronger permanent buffs after the second and third. So you're pretty much always willing to go even when you're the one who gets the gold.
Echrome stunned, a couple members of Food Drive. Over on the objective, ultimate out as well. Spirit of the Nine wins, splits the uprights, misses everyone. Maybe more of a, hey, watch out, don't fight into this type ultimate, but hits no one. And Leon takes half of his health in damage in exchange. And in these types of games, nothing happens for a while, and suddenly you erupt into the action.
And both these teams are pretty well composed to have some pretty big team fight moments. But in that little skirmish on the left-hand side, the Naga gets stolen away because Smokebreak pulled it just a little bit too early. Elion's Sunder was just coming off of cooldown whenever the Naga went down, like literally I saw underneath 1 second. So maybe just needed to be a little bit more patient on their DPS, but maybe Food Drive came in and accelerated that DPS a little bit too much for them to handle.
Well, slight advantage out of the jungle. You don't often see this, and I'll pause as Johnny Ragnarok's forward. That's beads from Globe. Feel like you maybe gotta have them, and the Raw will survive.
And I like Johnny being aggressive, but he also needs to pay attention to his farm level. He's now down 2 levels to Valo, and this Nemesis is going to be a problem once she gets into that late game. She's not great early right now, but I think she scales to be very, very strong.
Tegveer, half HP. Around goes Leon, and Echrome joins his support in safety. Hexstone forward, Tegveer's low here as well. Leon has ultimate, but will use it defensively. These junglers have just been working over here on left a little bit more frequently in the last couple of minutes. Of course, the Fury fight, very important to be here as a team, but maybe sensing some opportunities now is Valo. Ultimate could follow up this Rivers Rebuke. Leon tail whip catches the ultimate from Valo, and that damage is simple. Leon unaware and now unalive back in base.
Just too much chase there after Echrome got out, where I feel like Echrome didn't really need to be that worried about his position. Uses airstrike to escape, and then Leon uses Hexstone to try and close the gap, and then has to use his ultimate. So once Rivers Rebuke goes up, he's only got one way out, so it's very easy to set yourself up to body block that pluck. Just too aggressive there from Sobek.
One-on-one fight, making a 2-on-1. Globes and Searing Pain right through the jungle. If it connected onto Benko, don't think it did. It wasn't much damage either way. Soul Laners will live. Second Gold Fury of the game. Smokebreak confirms the first and gets the second. It's Johnny on the confirmation, but SAP7 did most of that final bit of damage.
And really good synergy between Johnny and SAP7. You want to time that Sphere of the Nine Winds and the Sunder at the exact same time so that you're not bursting it from 500, you're bursting it from 1,000. It makes it very hard for just one Sunder on Food Drive to come in and steal it. Compare that to the 2 Sunders on Smokebreak. They can burst a Fire Giant later in the game from 1,500, 2K potentially. It's going to be really hard for Food Drive to steal it.
Well, in aggro, now there's this interesting dynamic starting to unfold. Smokebreak have been on it, 2 out of 2 Gold Furies, but down a level in jungle still, down a level or 2 in support, but the sides of your map feel great. Benko up a bit on Karmic, Echrome up a bit on Tiebreaker. That's where most of that gold lead is landed.
And so with that being the case, where your mid 3v3 is going to be behind if you're a Smokebreak and your side lanes are going to be ahead, doing these quick hit objectives is the way to go. These types of extended fights in mid are much riskier, but right now they've got the numbers advantage.
Yeah, not where your lead is, but plenty of damage. SAP7 has Spirit of the Nine Winds. Is there follow-up? Don't need it. Leon in on the execute, hopping away, but just short from the escape. Benko, oh no, this is where the lead has been for Smokebreak, and it doesn't matter. Karmic lives. Must have been a one-on-one damage trade here on right, and the junglers making the difference in these 2 separate engagements.
I mean, pretty solid for both teams in a way, right? Where you feel like you should be strong for Smokebreak, you lose, but where you should be weak, you win. So at the end of the day, not too bad for either side.
Still a Ragnarok. Can you wait out the beats?
Nice.
Yes, you can. Searing Pain, no connection. And the Zephyr gets it done for SAP7. Johnny, now in back-to-back moments, set up right here around mid lane, but happened back from base.
Nice.
Eyes towards SAP7. Karmic survives narrowly a moment ago. Can you do it again? No, you can't, Johnny. Up downs. And it's a moment where Food Drive thought maybe you're going to get a kill onto this Kukulkan. Instead, now it's 2 kills in the last couple minutes over in mid.
So why haven't we been seeing Kukulkan again during the Founder Series? Because SAP7's making it look awesome, isn't he? I mean,
hard
he's
to
all
hit.
over the place. Not for SAP7 apparently,
no.
man. He is dialed in right now on this pick. Secures the Naga there with the ultimate, but his use of that new dash attack on the slipstream has been really good. He's used it to get out of Hades' ult. Right there, he uses it to get through that Riptide, kind of around it, so that he's in a better position. He's used it for damage when he's needed to, and he's just been so accurate with all of his abilities. Him and Johnny right there play a great 2-man game. Getting that kill on Globe, good patience from Johnny on the Ragnarok, where before he got his bite immuned by Globe's beads, waits it out, and the ultimate. And at that point, Globe has nowhere to go. And then a great turn from Sap and Johnny again onto Karmic once happened, and him try to drop a little trap there for Sap.
Well, things have started to settle out in some of the advantages we've seen, not now in the carry roles as the dynamic continues to shift. SAP7 pretty handedly ahead in XP per minute over Globe by about 100 or so. And same thing for Echrome, 2 levels ahead of Tegvir. So this Smokebreak team, you lose a bit of that advantage in solo, not completely gone, but now your carries, the ones you want to facilitate aggro, and you talked earlier about how good of a composition Smokebreak have for setting up. I mean, specifically for SAP7, but got to assume for both of their carries. So Smokebreak got to feel like in a really strong spot where this gold lead was very close, very narrow for a long time. Now Smokebreak are getting it in some really pivotal areas. We were looking at the Pyromancer a moment ago, happened a chance to steal, but I mean, let's be honest, you got a Spirit of the Nine Winds right down Main Street. Can the Rivers Rebuke save happen? Sure can. And we've seen that a couple of times. Rivers Rebuke defensively, Valo sends out an ult, but falls on deaf ears as the fight disengages.
Yeah, didn't love that ult from Valo. I mean, the fight's over. That Nemesis ult is going to be key, and right now this is an important Gold Fury to defend for Food Drive. This lead is starting to balloon. You've got this scaling option. This is going to be the third gold if Smoke Break get it. And I don't know if anyone from Food Drive is going to be here in time.
It's like LAN, the one separator, the great distance maker. Smoke Break will simply get this one, and there was an opportunity. Sap 7 did not have Spirit of the Nine Winds. Globe does have Searing Pain, so maybe a chance, but did not come to fruition.
But we come back to those Sunders. If those securing ultimates are down, we have to check those. And Happen had used his to try and steal away Pyromancer, and that's the only one that Food Drive have, whereas you still have 2 for Smoke Break that were both still up. So I think Food Drive makes the right call in that they just weren't in that position to defend that Gold Fury. But now, 15 minutes in, Smoke Break has stacked 3 golds. They've been on every single one immediately, have gotten all 3, and now you've got Ancient Fury coming up next, which, if it's been the same indication so far, I expect Smoke Break to be there.
You feeling pretty good about Double Sunder, Runic Bomb, Spirit of the Nine Winds, objective confirm as well. If you're thinking of that Ancient Fury, Fire Giant, something like that, you gotta figure your burst is going to be healthy enough.
Absolutely, and I think it would be tempting if you're Smoke Break to just say, well, we've got all these tools that you just listed, let's just run to fire and do it right in their face. But their lead isn't big enough to where they can't lose the fight afterwards, right? Yes, they can do the objective at any cost if they want to, but I do think that's a way where Food Drive could come back in this game.
Oh man, Karmic do not want to give up a death. Not over here on the right side of the map.
Nice.
The fear is big, and Karmic flips one as his dying breath goes out. The rest of Smoke Break fighting here on the right side of the jungle. E-Chrome's in the front line and just airstrikes away from what would have been an execution, Searing Pain. And these carries playing unconcerned. Here comes Johnny with a double already. Could be a third, and Sap 7 on the Zephyr adds one more. How about it from Smoke Break? You lose your solo, but you trade out 4.
What a play, what a fight from Sap 7. My man's is dialed in right now. Just perfect on the ultimate, hits Techveer, sneaks a little one in there and makes sure he can take him down, and just buys enough time for Johnny to come in and help after Johnny had to clean up Benko's mess on the right-hand side. Unbelievable team fight from Smoke Break, and I was gonna say, I feel like the only one who feels like they can pull this back from Food Drive is Karmic, and he makes a great play on Benko in order to not just die 1v1 and fears him back underneath that tower. But the lead is too great for Smoke Break. The rest of the team fight that doesn't involve Karmic or Benko is just too easy for Smoke Break to execute on. In this mid lane, Kukulkan, now level 18, has just finished that Soul Reaver. I mean, that's going to be in tons of damage with that intelligence, with the mana. You see the pen online for E-Chrome now with that Titan's Bane working towards some crit. I mean, it is not looking good right now for Food Drive. And the thing is, Dave, they don't get another crack at Smoke Break. This means that if they lose this game, they basically need to beat Team Risk, which they were unable to do yesterday, if they want to keep their names in contention for the 1 seed.
Now, I don't want to make something out of nothing here, but remember that additional, like, if we need it tiebreaker is who wins the fastest game.
That's a great point.
Of the day. And so Smoke Breaker in a position here, you're nearly 10k up, you got a Fire Giant, you're not going to take unnecessary risk. You guys still got to win the game. Oh, that's a big Spirit of the Nine Winds, but a Searing Pain connects. And the rest of Smoke Break now rallying around their mid laner. It's really just Johnny, but feels like the rest of Smoke Break with the damage we're seeing. And a shutdown sends 2 right back. LAN plucks Glow back. Wow, this has just been awkward for Food Drive. You pick Sap 7, but now you're going to lose the rest of your teammates. And look at on left, all this time, E-Chrome shoving down the left side of the map, and there's no one left to defend except Karmic.
I mean, Food Drive just feels like they need to do something, and they knew Sap didn't have a shell up, so River's Rebuke should be good enough. And it is ultimately, but Globe late on the ultimate, he needed to hit that off Happen stun, misses that Searing Pain, so that means Sap gets a Whirlwind off, which puts out too much damage, and so on and so forth, and that leads us to just an absolute domination of the map now for Smoke Break. And I think your point on fastest game should absolutely be in everyone's mind, namely that of Smoke Break and that of Food Drive, that maybe we shouldn't be trying to force these plays to come back and win. I'm not saying to give up, but I'm saying we can focus more on scaling than trying to make the Hail Mary right now. You know, can we delay? And even if it means that we ultimately do lose, if it takes them another 10 minutes and then we can snowball on Team Risk later today, that's better for us in our tournament chances ultimately.
Yeah, team who's losing, you know, the point differential in more traditional sports is an important tiebreaker. You still want to score a touchdown if you can to make your point differential look a little bit better. So maybe
and to like screw someone over in their fantasy football playoffs, you know, anything like that.
You and I might be matching up in our fantasy football playoffs here shortly.
It would be a dark day.
It would be a real sad day.
A dark day for what I'd have to do to you, Dave.
Luckily, that day is not today. You got to give me that. The only thing I have going for me this year is fantasy football. Real football has not been.
Wow, that's going to make me feel much sadder when I put you in the dirt.
Food Drive doesn't have much going for him here at the end of game number 1. It's interesting because it felt like things very close at the beginning of this one, going back and forth in kills. That early Gold Fury, remember, was a slight lead to Smoke Break, but then Food Drive answered back with a couple kills. Things sort of just broke open a few minutes after that, and these carries felt like they got too far ahead.
Exactly. It's just the back line for Food Drive, I feel like, don't have the damage to kill the people who matter in time on Smoke Break. I mean, E-Chrome's got Aegis and Airstrike. He's going to be hard to kill no matter what, so you've got to do it quickly, and Food Drive just doesn't really have the tools. Again, my eye goes to Karmic in that his build is actually pretty far along. He's got 4 completed items, including Helm of Darkness, so he can sneak into a fight and one-shot E-Chrome or Sap 7, then maybe Food Drive can hold. That's kind of the hope right now, is that Karmic sneaks in there with that stealth from Helm of Darkness. Maybe Valo drops an ult right as the fear comes out and you kill them in the CC chain. Otherwise, you're going to need a few minutes now if you're Food Drive. Globe needs to get some itemization online. Tegveer needs to get some itemization, and he has a low DPS starter item. He went for Warrior's Act to help his laning phase. When you upgrade it at 20, it comes back. It starts being relevant again, but right now, it's not really doing that much for him.
Smoke Break on it from early in this game. Trap maybe being set. Seen a couple attempts at things like this. You just hang out in the jungle. Maybe Smoke Break thinking that they're going to get you underneath your Phoenix, and instead you fight in the jungle. But I think maybe our earlier point about sitting back, stalling out, and defending a bit more keen. So you still got a Runic Bomb. Fire Giant has now fallen off. In sort of counter to the original point of speediest games, you still got to make sure you win the game, right? And so it's that balancing act of, okay, can we win the fastest in the event of another 3-way tie? But also it doesn't matter if we don't end up winning. You're in a pretty, I don't want to say unthrowable, but it'd be real difficult to get to that point. But got to make sure to cross everything up here. Johnny, one-on-one against Valo over on left. All right, I spoke too soon. Benko's here as well. These could be some final moments. Valo fought valiantly. Does not matter now. 5v4 on the map, and Fire Giant for everyone on Smoke Break.
Karmic's in a great spot. He's deciding who his target's going to be. It's E-Chrome, but that shield from the back RP trinkets is just huge. I mean, all it did was burst down that shield. Yeah, you get Airstrike, but you kind of needed to make that play happen when you saw 2 on left. It was good awareness from Smoke Break. I think you saw them realize, like, hey, their only play here is killing you guys on right. Back up and make sure you don't get caught.
Some of these active items are just so fun to watch. Love Hexstone, Helm of Darkness. Just wander around on the Hades, see if you can get something done. Gonna need to wander to left at some point. Benko does not have a minion wave. Not yet, at least. Can't tank up that Phoenix for too long. Leon learning that the hard way. Smoke Break slowing things down just a bit around the Phoenixes. Benko will get this one done quickly. My goodness. Used Runic Bomb, though. So now that out of the pocket of Smoke Break. Food Drive fully stacked up. Couple of beads. Globe, Tegveer, they've got them. Talisman of Purification for Happen as well, so a lot of that CC initially mitigatable. Couple ultimates for Smoke Break still waiting to come off cooldown.
Yeah, I'm wondering what Smoke Break is being this patient for. This Phoenix is only getting healthier from here. It was down, it was 400 HP, something like that. They could decide to back up and go for Ancient Fury, but I really don't think you need it at this point. You could go back and do Ancient Fury and Pyro, but I feel like it's only going to take a couple autos. Noteworthy that SAP doesn't have Polynomicon, because that would have been a big way to just easily poke it.
Benko and Echrome are going to shred a Phoenix and shred a Hades. Dazzling offensive. Oh, it's caught out by the River's Rebuke. Looks like Food Drive caught out Benko and Smokebreak just on different pages. And wow, is this siege now just done? Smokebreak uninterested in continuing.
So, I mean, we saw the DPS there from Benko and Echrome mean that they can do a lot to that Phoenix, and that's fine. I don't mind that play why aren't we just hitting mid-Phoenix at that time, right?
Yeah.
If everyone's going to be rotating over, and if they don't and they fight you in mid, okay, great. We will back up, and they will just get that right Phoenix.
Yep.
It was clearly going to happen in just a matter of seconds on different pages, as you mentioned. El Leon should be tanking that mid-Phoenix as soon as Benko starts tanking that right side Phoenix. And then wherever Food Drive plant their flag and say, we're going to defend this one, you back up here, and we let the other group do their job and kill the other side Phoenix. There hasn't been a lot of sloppy play from Smokebreak in this game, but that one could have gone better.
Unfortunately, it's the one that we're all kind of walking on eggshells waiting for, and it's clear and obvious on our screen. The Phantom Shell was over in mid lane with SAP 7. So a good catch out for Food Drive. Still feels like you're in that delaying the inevitable category, but little moments like that can start to stack up. We've seen a couple games this weekend where, you know, a team that's super far ahead drops a couple. Those death timers are a minute long, and now suddenly the other team's running down your side of the map.
Yeah.
Smokebreak has plenty of defense still standing. A couple tier 1s still around, and a lot of damage still needed for Food Drive.
Only 20 seconds on this fire, but now they've got Ancient Fury and a Pyro Bomb, so this siege should be quick but efficient.
And maybe a kill onto Karmic. We just lost the Soul Laner on Smokebreak side. You're going to lose a jungler. If your Food Drive, Phoenix down in mid. Globe steps forward, hoping for something on the SAP 7. Won't get it. Smokebreak are clinical outside of one moment, and they will take game 1 of 1 here and set themselves up great for the rest of the morning in our tiebreakers.
I mean, look, I had to wax poetic a bit about them messing up their siege, but that's about the only mistake that Smokebreak made in this game. Phenomenal showing from them, and I think that you can feel that they wanted to make a statement with this game. They lost to this team earlier. It was something that they wanted to get some revenge for, and they did just that.
Man, this Smokebreak team, this whole group, I mean, what a treat to watch this has all been. And yesterday we're talking about, this very specific situation would lead us to tiebreaker. I don't know if they're going to 2-0 this. Food Drive for Globe been looking really good. And then, of course, it happens. And, of course, everyone has 2-0'd all of their set. Nobody's taking a game off one another. That opens us up to some really great bonus smite. So Smokebreak after a match like this, I think twofold have to be feeling amazing. Because, obviously, you set yourself up with an early win.
Yep.
Still some pressure on your match later today, but got that one game in hand, so that's great. But also, the way they did it, I think you wake up, you get into the studio, you get a win, you get it done pretty convincingly. I'm thinking that's about as good as it gets here for Smokebreak.
Yeah, I mean, 27 minutes, I think, just because the clock matters as the secondary tiebreaker, I feel like it could have been a little quicker, but overall, it's an A, right? They did a great job. They came in, they controlled, they were dominant from the very beginning. And now you know that it's very unlikely that you end up with the 3rd seed. That's really what matters here. Just getting top 2, I think they should be very happy.
Yeah, totally agreed. Whether it's a bye or a matchup against the 3rd seed on the flip side, Mockingbird on the other end. So Smokebreak setting themselves up really, really nicely. And I think this is a dominant win that, SAP 7, you still get a win yesterday, right?
Yep.
But remember, stacking up
wasn't that much fun for him.
Right?
Yeah, wasn't that much fun for him. He had a lot better time this game.
Suddenly you get those Spirit of the Nine wins rolling out just a little bit. And, I'm thinking Smokebreak feeling A-okay after their win here in game 1.
No doubt about it. I mean, Risk is going to be looking at this and, now do we have to worry about Kukulkan? I think that adding a new mid laner into the pool that we haven't seen a lot of is always going to be pretty advantageous for you. But certainly the Smokebreak team is one that they woke up, they came to play. Food Drive, I'm really curious to see how they're going to look against Risk because they struggled against them yesterday.
Yep.
and they struggled now. So have they been figured out, or do they have something left in the bag? I'm curious to see.
It's been a great story following that team.
Yep.
So you hope that they can turn it around and keep the intrigue going. More data points on this duo lane.
True.
For Smoke Break as well. All good things to start off the morning for that team. That's it for Ryan and I on the cast. We'll go back to the desk to break it down.
That is one tiebreaker down, 2 still to go. But first one, kind of as surprising can get for me. Food Drive for Globe, we talked about how they can implode. It can happen, and when it does, it's usually pretty significant. And they were talking about the time and how important that is to lockdown seating. There was a moment where we were looking at it saying, this could be 20 minutes.
Yep.
Like, what is happening to Food Drive for Globe?
And we also mentioned how if you are to bring out a different strat or a different pick, now be the time to do so. And the Cuckoo seems like it came out of nowhere. I mean, definitely a strong mid laner. Takes a little bit to get online, needs to stack up Book of Thought, things like that. But if you're able to get good setup and if you're able to hit those Spirit of the Nine wins consistently, it could be a game changer. Now, I love what Aggro said. It's put it in everyone's mind now. Do we have to worry about Sap's Cuckoo? Is that something we have to ban? Should we pick that away? Or is there other things that are just too beneficial? Timer, as you can see on your screen, 27-18. Important in the event of another tiebreaker. Just keep that in your mind. I tend to agree as well, though. I feel like Food Drive kind of tried to stall this game out as long as possible, maybe because their comeback potential was there, but also just because the higher that number is, the better for them, just in case they're able to find wins later on. And
you can't really put it out of your mind as a possibility, because yesterday we were all pretty confident. Like, Food Drive for Globe looks amazing. There's not going to be a chance here of a comeback or a 2-0 for Team Risk, and that's exactly what happened that got us here in the first place. But what's always important, especially when you've got that throw everything at the wall type of games, is looking at stats and kind of finding what we can deduce from the game.
And we were also talking about, the value between, there's CERN, there's Jing, but there's also Sobek and Yamoja. What pick do you prefer for your squad? And I think that the versatility of Sobek won the day here. The fact that it could be flex as a solo laner, the execute is so annoying to deal with, as well as just the pressure it gives you over into duo lane, helped Leon and Ecrom out so much, right? You don't have to say, hey, this is our support, we're first picking it, everyone knows that. There's also that fear from Food Drive, like, okay, we're going to take Yamoja, but we don't know. Are we playing against that Sobek? Do we have to worry about it late game once it rotates out of solo lane? And I think that was also a good strategy put into place here, that considering now that the Cuckoo's in the mix, the Fenrir Johnny's been playing is also on everyone's mind. It's going to be difficult to draft against this squad.
It really is, especially, with one ban. It feels like we've moved past talking about that, but it is still important to keep in mind, because as more picks arrive throughout the day, now that nobody's holding anything back, that one ban slot becomes so much more important, because it almost gets to a point where you have to use it for more, as much as you're using it to get rid of a pick, you're using it to dictate the rest of the draft as well. But there's a lot to break down from that game, as well as the drafting and all that fun stuff, and the best way to do that is by asking, and we've got just the interview, one with Leon with Dulce.
Leon, support for Smoke Break here with me after a Game 1 and only Game 1 win up against Food Drive for Globe. You lost to them earlier on in this weekend. What do you think went differently in this one-game matchup this morning?
That was just the sap show right there. That guy was doing everything. I mean, I was just walking around just living the life of a crocodile, and he was hitting every ult. They dove him. He did probably 8,000 damage in that team fight mid under tier 1. I mean, that's all I can say, the sap show.
Sap, seems like a pretty cool, calm, collected fella. Yesterday, despite wins, felt like, getting ganked in mid over and over and over again. Couple 1-4, 1-5 starts. Do you get the sense that Sap needed a big win here today? A big Sap show, for lack of a better term, on the Cuckoo?
Yeah, I mean, we all know that he's just an insane player in general. And then today, I mean, he just showed it. Yesterday, he was running around, he's goofing around a little bit.
Sure.
But, today he was super locked in every aspect. I mean, the comms were there, and the whole team in general. I mean, Johnny, too, was just following up off Sap, making sure to clean up. I mean, they really just carried that game, and I'm just happy to be on the ride.
You're too humble, because everyone knows, the backliners are the ones who get the highlight plays, but backliners don't get those plays unless their frontliners are really making the space for them, right? And we were joking on the cast. How much does this play into it? In the event of another tiebreaker, everyone beats everyone today. We we look at game speed. Is that something you guys consider at all in these matchups? Can we win it just a little bit faster? Do you play a little bit more risky around those base sieges?
We thought about it, but as you know, the EU vibes is just take it slow. We'll play 30 minutes. And I was like, guys, if this goes 3 ways, and they're like, no worries, just get the win. So I'm down for that.
Do you feel alone on an island trying to push
trying to go.
forward?
They're like, yo, just chill and far. I'm like, but there's a kill. He's like, no, just chill. I'm like, all right.
Well, it works out either way. What's most important is you get the win.
That's all that matters at the end of the day.
First win of the day. We'll see you guys in action a little bit later on. Appreciate it. Back to the desk to finish it out.
I love it. I love the idea of, come on, can we please get this kill? There's a kill right there. Guys. Sounds like my comms. Jorby and I played. It sounded just like that, matter of fact. But no, it's interesting that it is on the forefront, but it's not taking priority over how you need to play the game cleanly, because the worst thing you can do is overplay your hand.
Exactly.
Try to end the game too early and allow a comeback, because as they were talking about on the cast, there's been a lot of comebacks this week. We know the potential for backdooring is always there, so you've got to play it smart.
Yeah, Gold Fury control, Ancient Fury control, this new Sunbeam bow. If you have Ancient Fury, like Alma, Nemesis, those kind of characters can just solo a Phoenix. But I do think that while timing, of course, is important, if you just win, it doesn't matter, right? Like Smoke Break's like, hey, we got to win quickly, but if we just win both of our sets today, there is no tiebreaker. We have simply won. So that's definitely another way to put it. If you're locking in, you don't make any risky plays, you're just farming better, fighting better. Then who cares if you want a little bit slower? You're going to get the dub regardless.
True indeed. And hey, the gauntlet is not quite done yet. Still 2 more tiebreakers to go before we can start breaking through that Vegas LAN. So before we get them started, we got to take a short break. So don't go anywhere. When we come back, more tiebreakers.
Got this feeling inside that I can't put aside because I want you. Although I thought I was fine when I left you behind, I know I loved you. I got this feeling inside that I can't put aside because I want you. Although I thought I was fine when I left you behind, I know I loved you. Got this feeling inside that I can't put aside because I want you. Although I thought I was fine when I left you behind, I know I loved you. I got this feeling inside that I can't put aside because I want you. Although I thought I was fine when I left you behind, I know I loved you.
And then I said, that's not Bacchus, that's Bilson's mother. That one always makes me laugh. But enough about my weekend. Hey, Gormizer, what's new with you?
Just picked up my SMITE 2 Founders Edition.
Very nice.
Purchased it on my preferred gaming platform just yesterday.
Nice skin.
It's Cacodemon Ymir. It comes with all SMITE 2 gods. Forever.
That's very cool, Gormizer, but that's nothing. Look at this. Nightstalker Neath and Ascension passes for 11 Alpha Launch gods. What do you think?
Geez, that is really super. How'd a nitwit like you get so tasteful?
Can't believe that Dandy prefers Chelly's Founders Edition to mine.
Very nice. Impressive. Let's see JMax Founder Edition.
Look at that avatar, badge, and title. The tasteful thickness of Tier 5 Fallen Zeusia. Oh my god, it even comes with Ascension passes for all 23 Alpha gods.
Don't be like this psycho and upgrade your Founders Edition, so you don't miss out on Nightstalker Neath, Tier 5 Fallen Zeus, and Ascension passes for the first 23 gods. Upgrade today.
Hey, and welcome on back. It's Malm and the Nitwit, and I got good news too. Gore, totally not that scary in person. He's so nice, so gentle, not being forced to say it at all. But one thing that I'll say genuinely is Founders Packs. Check them out today because they are so worth it. The Ascension Passes in particular are always my go-to because they've been so fun to grind out. I'm almost there most recently on Mordred. Really excited to get that Radiant set up. And there's 3 different variations you can grab at the Founders Edition if you want to get yourself started. On the base one, you can upgrade at any given time, and it's very worth it. Grab all the Ascension passes for the gods, for the first 23 gods, and of course, having the God Pack, which, who's ever going to argue against the God Pack? I know I won't. I got my use out of it in Smite 1, and will continue to get my use out of it in Smite 2. And, well, Nitwit, game number 1 is in the past.
Listen, man, only Dandy's allowed to call me a nitwit, and it's only when I'm being extremely tasteful, okay?
Extremely tasteful.
Extremely tasteful.
Game number 1 is in the past, and it was a shocking one for me. The first tiebreaker really threw me for a loop, but now we're in second tiebreaker.
Right.
New team coming in, Food Drive for Globe. They have to stay and endure some more, which is kind of interesting because a lot of teams are accustomed to playing best of 3s, going back and forth like that, but to change opponents essentially between a game 1 and a game 2, if you were to look at it that way, that's a lot to adjust to in a short period of time.
Right, but on the other hand, Team Risk is coming in a little bit cold, right? You know, you just got a match. It was about 27 minutes, I believe. It wasn't fantastic in favor of Food Drive for Globe, but you know they understand how the early game was played. Obviously, they're sitting down at 0-1 currently, but it's kind of do or die time for them, right?
Yeah.
If they still want to try and compete, they have to rely, number 1, on Food Drive being able to win here, but they also have to rely on Smokebreak losing against Team Risk, which would help them out a ton. But that's kind of what the tiebreakers are all about, right? Bringing everything you have for this one game. Remember, if you're watching at home and you miss game 1, game time also extremely important here. Trying to win as quickly as possible puts you in good position to earn that first seed.
I can't help but look at the schedule and see the third game, and if we end up in the tie situation where game time matters, you see 2 EMEA teams and you think, hey, that's got to be the slowest matchup that there will be, right, in terms of what we've seen in the past, but that's definitely up in the air. One thing that, too, we got to talk about a lot, we got to see it in action from SAP 7, was the adaptation and kind of out of nowhere Cuckoo play, which was awesome. I mean, 26,000 damage in the previous game for SAP 7, but now for Food Drive for Globe, you've kind of got that in the back of your mind of hey, there was a pick that everybody kind of forgot about, and there's a lot of picks we still have not seen this week.
I think that, again, we mentioned this before, but if you went back to your hotel and you sort of talked strategy here, I doubt you were planning on facing a Cuckoo. So just because it showed up right then, I guess if you see Team Risk in the lobby, like, bro, now we have to cook up a strategy for Cuckoo, I think they're probably just going to stick with what they know and say, hey, Cuckoo will just throw into the mix. If it does come through, it happens. Sap hopefully isn't as on point with the Cuckoo as he was in game number 1, because, again, there was a lot of those ults landing, which does a ton of damage. Anyone who's been hit by a Cuckoo ult understands exactly what we're talking about here.
Not me, of course.
No, I would never. I would juke it.
Yeah,
but
we're so good.
Yeah. Thank you for throwing me into that as well.
Yeah, I got your back.
But again, I think Team Risk cooked up their own strategy here, and they're probably not going to let what we just witnessed throw you off too much. But something to remember, this is going to be very important here. Theeks plays Cuckoo as well. Like, this is not a pick that he is.
Yeah, it was SAP 7 and Theeks who brought it to the limelight at first.
Right, so it's not something that they can't just grab and say, hey, we're going to treat this as a pseudo ban and just take it away from you, right? Like, that is certainly a play that could happen later on. It's also not something we're going to see here unless, of course, Globe wants to try and pick it up. Remember, the Poseidon was banned away from Globe last game. That was a pick that he likes to go to. I just think mid lane at the moment is very impactful for just about all of these matchups. So I'm definitely going to keep my eye on it to see exactly what Theeks and Globe try and lean towards here.
It's hard not to, and there's also there's the player aspect, there's the motivational aspect of it. When I think about Food Drive for Globe, who they were riding that wave of we've established ourselves, we're such a hyped up team, people are talking about us, and Team Risk really kind of popped that balloon, brought them back down to earth a little bit. And now you get to face them right away, and with not as much on the line. You're good for Vegas, but seeding is so important for Vegas that you really probably want that get back.
Right, but if we're talking about balloons getting popped, I mean, the undefeated, never lost a game, never lost a set. Team Risk getting upset.
That was a loud balloon.
Game number 1, like that was also a balloon being popped. So maybe some, not egos necessarily, but they've stepped down a peg or two here for this matchup. So it's going to be exciting to see which one of these teams is able to find that confidence here. Again, best of 1. You just got to show up for one single game, and really anyone can do that.
Yeah, anybody can, but it does take P's and B's first to get there. So let's hop in and see what we've got. Cuckoo, of course, on the mind. Let's not forget the picks that we've seen a lot of, and Odin is the start, and that makes a lot of sense. Team Risk have used that cage to great effect.
Yeah, Odin, Sobek, which means Yemojo definitely a topic of conversation. Remember, the Poseidon was also banned away, and it looks like, wow, just trying to get Globe's hands on the Fish Boy is more of a priority here for Food Drive for Globe. I mean, definitely a strong pickup, but there's that Yemoja we were talking about.
Going quick here, and the Yemoja to answer the Fish Boy, as you've now coined it. I like that.
Yep, it's good.
It's got to be on point. I think Genetics Yemoja, of course, never a worry, but in particular, Team Risk, when they've played crystal clear as a team, when the comms have been there, when the plays have been there, I feel like that's when Food Drive got outmatched. But if Food Drive can play their own map, that's a big thing. Now, what do you grab to play your map?
Well, looks like the answer here is going to be the Cert and Loki. Loki went completely uncontested in game number 1 today, but not something that Valo wants to let slip through the fingertips here in game number 2. And the answer usually would be Jingwei, but in this case, it's going to be the Cupid here for Team Risk, followed quickly by the Fenrir. So no real ambiguity here, all these picks. We know where they're going, right? Yemoja towards the support, I'm over in solo lane, but see what Food Drive for Globe answers. But wow, the Hades again. I mean, that's shocking to me because it wasn't a great performance last game we saw. I mean, the only person who's really been playing this Hades well is Cherry.
I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of the Hades. I do think after the Loki was locked in, the face of Team Risk was really interesting to me. We talked about going home to the hotel, doing your homework and setting up, and well, there's the Cuckoo hover for Theeks, so that's just as interesting. But if they're prepared for the Loki and also either ready to adapt or this Cuckoo should it get locked in, had that stepped up in preparation, it really brings a new dynamic to today that maybe teams were sitting on picks for the right moment. With the Cuckoo locked in, pretty easy to think that way.
I mean, you have so much potential here for just hard carry, right? You also have to consider that Cuckoo has a lot of setup. You've got the Fenrir, you've got the Cupid, you've got the Yemoja, and even the Ama. There's so much just raw CC there. But there's also so much sustain. Yemoja, Cupid, there's a ton of healing baked into that composition that you're looking at the other side. Food Drive for Globe, they don't really have that same level of sustain. A nice, long, sustained fight would not really bring that much to the table here. I'm excited to watch Theeks play the Cuckoo, though. That's a pick that he's went to time and time again early on in the Founders Series and looked phenomenal doing it. And that was pre-buff Cuckoo. Like, Cuckoo took some buffs a while ago. We're in CA7 now. This was a couple patches ago. But regardless, Theeks was going to it when Cuckoo really wasn't playing that well.
Because there was a whole weekend of it where we saw, I think it was Theeks, Sap7, and I want to say Benny all brought out the Cuckoo in the same weekend where it caught all of our attention because it came out of nowhere. And to see it come back now is wild. And Cupid, too. There's been so much talk about the Cern way, you called him yin and yang earlier. Cupid has started to sneak his way in, and I'm a big fan. Every time we're seeing it, maybe aside from one or two, it's looked really good. Yeah,
absolutely. And something else to note, the fact that Loki still does have, that incredible late game, but Fenrir is made to bully Loki, right? Like you can follow him in stealth. That was never the case in Smite 1. In Smite 2, Brutalize will be able to follow Loki, so the only way to get away from Fenrir is to ult out or blink out. And Fenrir has so much movement, he can usually chase you down, especially if Lasbra opts to go something like Sunder or like the Crusher or Mystical Mail.
That's been the Lasbra MO, is play for the jungle.
Exactly. Lasbra loves to just try and invade, get active early as far as farming. He usually isn't one to take those 1v1s if he doesn't have to, but against Loki, it's a matchup you're certainly going to win. And we already mentioned this, and I guess I forgot to bring it up, the fact that Karmic didn't have the greatest game on Hades last time, but Poseidon has been played a bit in the solo lane as well. So there is always that possibility that they try and do a little swap up there, just because, again, Poseidon is a bit of a hybrid build. Because, again, no one's playing Hades solo full tank, right? They're going full damage.
Everyone's going damage.
Whereas Poseidon, Final K's been going things like Berserker Shield and just trying to get attack speed online. I think the Bruiser-esque build of Poseidon would also benefit from, a lane swap.
I like that call because as another reminder, which you'll see it in the bottom right corner when we get in game, this is on CA7, so this is a very strong iteration of Poseidon, which gives you some more flexibility to do that. And had Food Drive gone this route you're talking about with putting Poseidon solo, you could have started off with, grabbing the priority pick, but you're also starting with a flex, and Team Risk would have had that in their brains this whole way through.
Right, exactly. And again, Team Risk, they're a team that knows how to play with pressure, and Lasbra and variety can certainly find it. I mean, Sunbeam Bow Ama is really the only item you need to be able to find some kill potential early on. If we're talking about, who can deal with Ama the best, you got to put a little bit more presence towards Hades there, being able to dash under Dazzling Offensive. You've got CC immunity just to not get stunned. But Poseidon's got decent enough matchup into things like Fenrir, right? You drop the Whirlpool at your feet, don't have to worry about any of the Unchained or the Brutalized damage. You really just have to hold on to things like beads. And more often than not, a lot of solo laners are picking up beads whenever possible, just because it's not usually enough that only your support is grabbing it. It's nice to have team-wide cleanse on more than one character on your squad, just in case you're not always grouped up.
Which is a good call, too, because one thing we've seen from Loki quite a bit is a focus in solo. And you mentioned it, Amaterasu is going a very deliberate but obvious build currently.
Right.
That does leave her kind of vulnerable for the first 7-8 levels of the game, where we've seen Loki's really just sitting on their own solo and trying to get some picks, because if you can put the Ama behind, Sunbeam Bow doesn't feel nearly as good if you're 2 levels behind.
Right. The thing is, the auto attacks don't do a lot, and then you're still not tanky. That's the real only thorn about that item at the moment, is if you go it, a lot of people are going double attack speed in that first slot, and then you're just very easy to gank. So you have to watch the positioning if you are going to build something like that. I do want to talk a bit about the mid lane matchup again, just because I think Globe has been very strong for this Food Drive team, but when he has a rough game, when he has a sort of a late start and can't really get online, they look a lot worse for it. Like, Valo still is able to find some key picks here and there, but being able to threaten just by, Globe's kind of ahead, he can rotate left, he can rotate right, he can go towards objectives, seems to be Food Drive's MO, right? And if they don't have that, their gameplay sort of falls apart and they kind of just they're kind of scattered. So I think Globe getting ahead, or at the very least staying even, is going to be a huge topic here. And one thing that Theeks always does, regardless of how well the team's performing, is stay farmed.
Yep.
He is consistently on point with, oh, I'm going to be level 17.
Theeks and Lazarus both.
Yeah, as well. That they know how to farm even when the team's behind, and that's a scary thing to do. Just be able to understand the map so well that, oh, we're getting owned, but I'm still even, and that's very important.
It is, and I'm also looking at Tiebreaker too, because I feel like Tiebreaker has got to perform on this CERN. There's been Tiebreaker games where he's performed very strongly that we've seen on the Sasanos earlier on, usually against Zapman. I was talking about that a lot yesterday. But we've also seen a couple pop-off performances on your more traditional carries. But in this situation, I feel like they have to see it, because we know that Globe is going to try to put in the work. We know Valo is going to look for fights, but you've got to see it from Tiebreaker at some point.
Yeah, Tiebreaker is still one of the most diverse ADCs that we've seen so far in the Founders
for
series.
a while.
Just build-wise, playstyle-wise, god pick-wise. And in this case, just going to something traditional like CERN, not going to be too crazy, but the build may be surprising. Again, we've been seeing some shifters, Berserker Shield thrown into the build, like a tankier style of ADC play. Could be annoying to try and deal with, especially against something like Cupid. Like, this isn't the traditional Jing way that the matchup calls for. It's hard to run away as a Cupid. You don't have that airstrike to just fly.
Well, both teams kind of have vengeance on the mind, but somebody's got to come out the better of it. Tiebreaker time, game time. Let's send it over to your casters.
Food Drive for Globe started this knockout stage 4-0 in games. They have lost their last 3 games. 2 of those were handed to them by Team Risk. Jorby and Inbound taking you through the action of this best-of-1 tiebreaker. Food Drive were not able to take it against Smoke Break, and, well, we have, I would say, an interesting pick and ban phase here for Food Drive and Team Risk Inbound.
Yeah, and a lot of things to touch on, but I think we have to start off with Team Risk is running back nearly the identical comp that Smoke Break won with last game, and it was a comp that played very well, executed very well by Smoke Break. Food Drive for Globe really had no opportunity in that game, but they played more through objectives. It wasn't like their 5v5s, their team fights were great. That's not the reason that they won. They played 5-minute Gold Furies, 9-minute Gold Furies, 13-minute Gold Furies. They were very on top of that, and that's how Food Drive has kind of been to that point of being the team that started 4-0. They were playing for those early objectives.
I mean, Team Risk, they kind of played them better there. We saw the duo lane genetics specifically hold space really well, prevented Food Drive from getting the free lane to go get the Gold Fury. And when they were so good at out-positioning them and you know, modulating their aggression, Food Drive, their farm got shut down, and we saw exactly what happened. Team Risk just diffed on them in that series, so something's got to change for them there.
Yeah, and I want to see Food Drive isolate that. This dual lane is so important for them. I'm glad that they've got Happen back on this aggressive support. We talked about it a lot that, you know, Happen as Yemoja is fine mechanically, but this team runs through him being this aggressor, playing forward, and him paired with Tiebreaker, that they need to be on top of it and they need to play together. And I really like this 2v2 that they've drafted. Tiebreaker back on this CERN. Again, this tankier style CERN that Tiebreaker has brought forth. He is the integral part, him and Happen. If they get ahead, if they can play for these Gold Furies early, this is how Food Drive wins. But, I mean, on the opposite side, Team Risk, very good 2v2 draft that they've put together. While it's not, you know, we have a lot of threat, we have a lot of kill potential, it's just very hard to kill. They're very safe, a lot of sustain, and good enough clear. But this is something that we've seen Happen and Tiebreaker do a lot, where their level 1, level 2 is so strong, you can't even walk up and soak the XP to hit that level 2.
Inside this duo lane, well, actually inside the duo lane, Tiebreaker, Shell to help them out, survive, who will get out of it. They are playing aggressive on them. So the duo lane, the better duos we've seen in the tournament so far, will continue to push forward, but my eyes are kind of on Variety. Variety was on this Amaterasu in Game 1 versus Food Drive yesterday. Had 37k damage for it, and it's the first 2 items that you see built on it. It's the Sunbeam Bow right into Prophetic Cloak, which just makes this Amaterasu so deadly. You heard Trelly kind of talking about it on the desk that, you know, it just gives Amaterasu so much kill potential early, but then you get that Cloak online as well, and you can box with the best of them. We saw Variety be integral in those team fights late. You see the gank in the mid lane, Globe, who did get his Poseidon. We'll find a little bit of harassment there from Lasbra.
And this is this early game that we're talking about. Happen level 3, genetics level 1.
What happened to Genetics? Well, he did get his buff earlier. He wasn't able to get the XP for that. And yeah, you need another lane clear.
I mean, this is just exactly what they're doing. They can't walk up to clear. We saw it as soon as they hit level 2. Tegveer dashes in, and Happen just runs it down also. They didn't get a kill, but they bullied out hard enough that Tegveer was able to sustain up, and then all they really got was just that one wave, because, I mean, as you said, they didn't get their purple buff, so they haven't gotten a purple buff. They haven't gotten more than one wave, and Tegveer and Happen invaded the purple buff, soaked every single wave. This is like that early game aggression we needed to see from these two. And now we're seeing, you know, this split map, because I think you talking about Amaterasu is a really good point, because Variety was the one that kind of dictated a lot of these early fights for Team Risk. He was the one that was, you know, making plays, playing for the 1v1s, playing for those blue buffs. And we need to see him do it over there, because this is what's happening in the left lane.
Lasbra has the gank, though. Tegveer's in some trouble. He already dashed, got the stun, and Happens coming around the corner. Will be able to slow them down, so Tegveer will not need his shell, and the mere threat of Happen will keep them out of it for now. You do have Valo coming over as well to take a look at it. How much fight you'll be able to do. We know how nasty Valo has been in the jungle, even when it looks like he can't get something done on this Loki. He always finds a way to get value and find damage where you didn't think he could.
And that's a feels bad for Lasbra. Lasbra's actually forced over there to try to make that fight, make that gank, because they're so far behind. They can't even win this 3v2. So Tegveer and Happen live that gank. Valo's able to invade that speed buff. There is so much pressure right now on Team Risk. We have 0 kills in this game, and this is just an absolute stomp so far. This is not like we have 3 kills, that's how we're snowballing. No, this is, we are out farming, we are playing the map smarter, we are playing the map better, and Team Risk is kind of floundering at this point.
It actually is playing a little similar to that game 1 from yesterday, be it, you know, Food Drive didn't have this kind of control over the duo lane in the first 5 minutes, but they were still finding their farm. But then Team Risk, they found ways to mitigate Food Drive's push forward and their momentum, and eventually took over the game from there. So you cannot count out this team, their ability to respond to what they're doing. With 20 seconds, they will be 20 seconds left till the Gold Fury spawns, excuse me. They will be looking towards it. You do see Globe kind of hinting that way, as duo lane will go for their jungle buff.
And you can already see him setting up for this. Globe is looking for this clear, going to be rushing into the jungle, and it's the same thing on the duo side of the map. And this just always goes back to that early game. There's a massive difference. Even if Genetics and Streak stayed, they can't push as even. They'll just get zoned out. And Valor's probably the best jungler when it comes to being on time with this. This could be a fight right here.
Yeah, they want it. Lasbra's coming up to look.
Kraken.
This one's not guaranteed.
Eek's behind.
For Food Drive. And they're going to crash onto him. They go to the back line, threw out the ult as well, and Team Risk steal it. Oh, they've been so good at it. Now you just have to wipe everybody out to even the score, and they just might do that. They take 3 off the board. Deeks, Genetics, and Lasbra pay for their steal.
And that is Theeks coming from behind, trying to find that steal in the Gold Fury, but DPS just stops. They just completely drop the Gold Fury on the DPS. Theeks drops that ultimate. It does nothing in that team fight other than hit Happen, but Happen doesn't even die through that. And Food Drive, it almost felt like they were fine losing that Gold Fury because of just how hard they knew they were going to win that fight. Genetics is dead before the Gold Fury is even low enough, and for there's no rotation from Streak even. Streak sits in lane. That's a really good play by Food Drive.
I mean, you saw it was Globe. He throws the Whirlpool onto the Gold Fury. He immediately backs up as Lasbra approaches, and everybody was just expecting it. They're expecting him to dive on the back line. And so, I mean, I think you're exactly right about it. That's exactly how it went. And this is now a little different. Sure, Team Risk got that Gold Fury, but you lost 3, and it almost completely negates the gold advantage that you get out of that Gold Fury. And Food Drive are finding the trades that they couldn't find last time against Team Risk.
And I like to see Food Drive switching up how they're playing the map. It's not just, you know, we have to get Gold Furies. It's our only way to win. No, they've shown that they'll bait that Gold Fury, and if you really want to send 3, have all of them die trying to get this Gold Fury, yeah, maybe you get it, but, you know, we get that first blood. We get a solo on the right side of the map by Karmic.
Karmic, that's awesome. You love seeing that. You got to be aggressive early, because just as Amaterasu died, that's when the Sunbeam Bow got bought. He didn't have it until that death right there. Karmic, that's an important kill early to try to get ahead before this Amaterasu can truly box.
And this is the best timing on top of, you know, getting Sunbeam Bow right before it. You also can now invade this blue buff. and put even more pressure on Variety, because you have pressure on the left side of the map. Tegvir at this point 1v2ing over there, you are fine on that side of the map. But when you get these leads, the best part about having a lead is being able to extend it to other parts of the map. And Karmic did that naturally. It wasn't a Valo gank, it wasn't Happen having to rotate, it wasn't Globe having to rotate. It was a solo kill that then allows them to set up that invade on that blue buff. And now we see Food Drive for Globe. Once they get this little lead, they play, you know, the map smarter than most other teams would. They play around these Nagas. Once they get these Nagas, they play for Gold Furies. And the hardest part, and I was talking about Smoke Break with them yesterday about, pause on that.
Oh yeah, Rivers Rebuke up. Happen is in a lot of trouble. Don't think he's escaping. And yep, Lasbra will get the kill. Happen gets caught. But I don't think Food Drive are too upset about it considering how it's gone. Again, you have to be careful. Too many picks. Team Risk are not far down in this game at all. 8 minutes in. Short, they got the Naga buff for the objective. Food Drive are feeling comfortable. But with comfort comes a greater energy put on trying to stay focused, making sure you're on top of your vision, on top of your rotations, and not letting Team Risk just sneak back into this.
And this kill into Happen, it's a death that doesn't really mean too much because there's nothing available for Team Risk. There's no tier 1 available to really go for. Gold Fury is still down from that first one. But my eyes are set on this next Gold Fury because what we've seen Food Drive do is everyone sits in lane, and the only thing is Valo goes to the Gold Fury and just solos it with the Naga buff. And at this point, where Valo is at, he is able to just walk through jungles by himself because he is so much stronger than everybody on the enemy team. Team Risk doesn't have anybody that can really shut down Valo. Valo's got that full first item. He's going to be getting that second one soon, and this Gold Fury is going to be spawning. There's a lot of pressure on the map, but I want to see Karmic look to rotate. This next Gold Fury is very important.
Tower dive for Happen, get the freeze. Valo's here as well. Tegvir will pop a couple damage numbers in. They won't be able to really get through on that tower, though. They do force them back. And now the push goes back to the Gold Fury. Valo's been up here with Lasbra. They've been dancing ahead of this Gold Fury for a little while. It's not going to be a free one again. Meanwhile, Karmic over in that solo lane keeps on harassing. He's looking for a rotation over as well. It might be a full team rotation for Food Drive to get this because Globe is getting involved as well. Starting to push into this Chaos side. Valo looking for a target. Cuckoo's looking quite tasty. And the Kraken goes up, but he's still surviving. Ult in response, and Valo will get out of it. Lasbra has the ult, forces the beads out of Globe. And so a lot of ults used, some utility dumped. Now Karmic has come to play. Big burst down. Streak has to use his dash. Rivers Rebuke up to try to stop, but he dashes through. Ulting Streak on the back line. Karmic gets him. And here's another ult for the Shards. But Genetics survives for now. Gets walled on the backside. Variety gets a kill, but Genetics goes down. Lasbra gets Tegvir as well. It's a 2 for 2 on both sides, but Variety just might fall. Valo has to retreat.
And this is a massive win for Team Risk. Not only do you trade 2 for 2 when you're behind, but Gold Fury is now nothing Food Drive can do for that. You get those trades, you play your fights very well, and actually a lot of really good relics on the side of Team Risk. Theeks hit a really nice Aegis, and it was a weird split fight by Food Drive for Globe. Like, they had the rotation earlier with Karmic, but they didn't fight on Karmic. They fought a 2v2 deeper in the jungle instead of fighting around Karmic. I think if you play that fight just a little bit slower, allow Karmic to be the one not necessarily engaging it, but able to follow up, that's going to feel a lot better. It just seemed like they felt they had to do it at that exact point, and they didn't have to. Benko is slower. Just make sure you play around your actual 5v4. Don't play around that 2v2 deeper.
I feel like Genetics Rivers Rebuke really threw a wrench through that team fight too, because Karmic was able to just dive right under it and chase down Streak, but then, like you said, everyone was split. So Genetics makes the play there where it looked favorable for Food Drive, right? And so one ult can really make the difference. And now look at Karmic getting boxed out. Tries to ult out. There's absolutely no escape. Variety just slices him to pieces.
And this is the Variety switch up on the solo lane build. Usually it's Benko. I mean, he's the one that started this build. He goes for Prophetic Cloak. Variety with the more aggressive build goes for the Pharaohs, which, you know, slows your movement speed, slows your attack speed. It makes it so if you don't position with your dash well, you will just get ran down.
Now Team Risk. There's a contest coming, Happens, waiting for a good moment. Everyone here, Globe here, Tegvir Keeping Variety out. Variety continues to do this on that peel. It makes it so hard, and I mean, there's just too many threats to deal with there. Tekvir sees Variety, he can't move up. Happen also, they don't have full vision on everybody, and then the Rebuke to make sure you get the Gold Fury. This is exactly what Team Risk did yesterday against Food Drive. When it comes to these team fights, they find ways to eke it out, to slow it down, and to pull everybody apart and make Food Drive, it makes them impossible to respond to it on that Gold Fury.
And how they've played it so far, Team Risk, they've almost negated that disastrous early game over in Duo. We're talking about level 3 to level 1, level 4 to level 1 for Tekvir and Streak. And yeah, Streak's not had the most impactful game, but realistically, Tekvir's not done much. Most of it has been, the solo laners rotating and the ones making the plays. Tekvir and Streak have been, non-existent for the most part. Yeah, you look at the KDs and 1-1-3 is looking a lot better than 0-1-0, but for how bad that early game started, Streak and Genetics have completely just avoided it.
When you were, you were level 4, they were still level 1. And you only really got them once. Variety ult finds nothing. Karmic, though, gets zoned out of it. And Variety continues to take control of this lane. Karmic knew he had to get aggressive early against this Amaterasu if he ever had a chance at it. We'll have the fear on Variety, but you won't have any chance to get any of the objectives here in the solo lane.
So far through this tournament, we've seen Amaterasu kind of pop up as this dominant solo laner, and for the most part, Sobek's been picked into it. Hades is one that has been picked into it. And yeah, Karmic found that solo, but there's really only one point in the game where this actually feels like a good matchup for the Hades. As soon as you get that first item online, that Sunbeam Bow, and then you get that defense item online as Amaterasu, it feels like you just run down the Hades, and there's no real opportunity for him to do anything.
Yeah, a little trouble too. Lasbra
as Blink
jumps on it, half his health is gone. Brutalized surely would have put him on death's row, and still he might find that. Get a kill in the column for Lasbra. Just keeps on swiping the claws, and poor Karmic is just bleeding everywhere right now. Has no answer for anything happening to him.
Phenomenal gank there by Lasbra. Holds the jump to make sure he can follow that leap. And Karmic feels like he's forced out of his tower, so that, you blink over that wall, you think you've created enough distance, but Lasbra's holding jump that entire time. And Fenrir is not so far he's been, impactful, but we've seen a lot of Loki value for the most part.
Yeah, now in trouble. Some more. Cupid ult drops down. Genetics will get credit for the kill. Tekvir gets caught by himself, and nothing they could do about it. Meanwhile, Globe and Happen trying to find something of value here in the mid lane. Globe narrowly avoids the Cuckoo ult, and we'll get out of it. And Lasbra's here to dance again. Hopping on Happen, he does not care. He just wants you to fear the dog.
And so far it feels like at this point now, Food Drive is reeling. This is 6-6. This game is completely even, but it feels like Team Risk is up 10,000 gold the way they're throwing around their body weight.
When you look at the gold swing,
yes.
It almost, yeah, I'm with you right there. It's kind of crazy how they just turn it around instantly.
And this is for Food Drive for Globe. Yes, maybe a few fights have gone out of your way, but you're still completely in this game. You should still be looking to make plays. Valo, a couple early plays. This Loki, through this middle portion of the game, hasn't really been able to get anything going. I want him to still play aggressive, and this is what I like to see. Group up in the jungle, look for something. You have a lot of CC with this Ymir, a lot of damage with the Loki also. So don't, even though you've lost a few fights in a row, don't just not look for anything. It felt like the last few minutes it's been all Team Risk opting to make plays and more just farming out of the side of Food Drive for Globe.
And Food Drive, right before that pause, and we'll get back to the game as soon as we can. Make sure all the players are ready to go. We appreciate your guys' patience on that. But they were still trying to dictate the pace of play there, right? 15 minutes, Fire Giant is up. All right, we go. And Team Risk weren't exactly gunning for it. Food Drive were. I think they feel like we have to contest this. We have to make an objective work because they feel that gold swing, right? They feel Risk dominating these last 5 minutes, and you need a win somewhere. So if you can force a fight at the Fire Giant, find a pick somewhere, then maybe you can do it. But I'll be honest with you, like I'm scared of this Amaterasu if I'm Food Drive for Globe. I don't know if they're going to be able to get through her because Variety has still just the way he positions is so good at splitting up Food Drive for Globe. It makes it so much harder for them to support each other in these team fights when you always have to account for where Variety is, because it's not just enough for the peel, it's the amount of damage that Amaterasu does.
Yeah, and the scariest thing about Ama isn't just, her team fights. Like, yeah, as you're highlighting, Variety positions perfectly, makes it so he splits the fight. You can't really kill him, and he plays his life very well. But on top of that, Alma is probably the best objective shredder in the game with her passive. This Sunbeam bow build, she just eviscerates Fire Giants. And this is for both teams. This goes for both teams where you have to be aware of Fire Giant at all times. 15 minutes is on the board. Fire Giant is available. Both teams can shred fire, so you have to get wards down over there. You have to be aware of it. And I would expect for, Food Drive for Globe to be the ones to look for something. They're grouping right now in the jungle. They're the ones that are trying to slow this game down, I guess, a little bit and try to find something, because they've really not found anything for a little bit. And even going back way earlier into the game with how dominant this dual lane was, Tegvir has been like a ghost. He's been not anywhere, not making plays.
Yeah.
And even there, he's the one that dies against Streak, and that's part of the reason you see this Cupid pick instead of Jing Wei. Cupid wins this matchup into CERN very, very easily, especially because a lot of the times Tegvir goes for that shell. You can't beads to get out of the Cupid ultimate. You can't Aegis the burst. The shell does a little bit later into the game, but at this point, before you get those defense items online, shell is not going to make you that tanky.
Food Drive thought they were isolating Lasbro with that Odin ban. Thought that Ring of Spears was something that was too difficult to deal with yesterday. They even pick up Ymir to make sure Genetics doesn't get that Ymir. And I just think about the beginning of that game again, where, just to continue about Tegvir, when you're 3 levels up, they're both level 1, you're level 4, that's where Cerninosa's burst should surely be getting you kills, but somehow they couldn't actually lock them down enough. You find 1 kill on Genetics, and that's it. That's all they get on that advantage. I feel like they needed so much more out of that, and on top of that, the Odin ban on Lasbro hasn't mattered at all. He has been lethal on this Fenrir. He has caused so many problems, especially for Tegvir. He had a good rotation on Karmic as well. And outside of 1 or 2 good plays in that early game, you talk about the farm for Food Drive in that first 5 minutes. It was the same story. And then Team Risk, when it gets dirty and you're in the jungle and it comes to these team fights, it's all about that IGLing. And I just think Genetics is proving to be different in that aspect. The calling when it comes to those fights is so good. And then you add that individual ability that we've talked about so far. I mean, Team Risk are just showing you why they're the #1 team in EMEA. I don't know what happened against Smokebreak at the start of the weekend. Clearly, they don't know what happened either, because they haven't looked like that team since then. They look like the Team Risk we all expected to be here. And Food Drive for Globe they might lose their 4th straight game.
Yeah, and to repicture this, it's not, this game is over. It's still very, very close. The worry, though, the momentum is on Team Risk's side. They're the ones making the plays. They're the ones that are getting this value. I mean, just about everywhere on the map. I mean, you look over at solo lane, Variety has been bullying out Karmic. Lasbro's been making more plays than Valo. We talk about dual lane. Tegvir had just been ganked. This is a pause where if you're on Food Drive for Globe, this gives you that little mental reset to slow the game down. Usually when you talk about slowing the game down, it's, we try to get this Gold Fury, so stop their snowball. This just gives you time to just breathe for a second. Take this time. You are still in a perfectly fine spot. The gold lead is not there. We're 15 minutes into the game. You are fine, but you still have to look to make plays. You still have to play around your fed characters, and I think it has to start with Valo and Happen. Those two are usually the ones that are starting the plays. I want groupings that those are the two leading forward with it. Globe can be there for the damage. They have damage to kill, but it starts with Valo. It starts with Happen. You have to make the plays. You have to get something going.
Team Risk, they are just too strong on it. I was curious about the variety on the Amaterasu. That
it looks so good, though.
Is working out really, really well, that build. And he even went different on the build this time, not even Cloak, and still is just absolutely slicing in these team fights.
And to be fair, this is a really good game for him to opt for the Pharaoh's Curse instead of the Cloak.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of survivability that you need against this comp. Your survivability comes in the form of your immunities and just getting that lead. And I like that he switched it up. Prophetic Cloak is so much slower than Pharaoh's Curse is. It's a much quicker spike.
Food Drive for Globe had a chance to take a breather, and now it's time to jump right back into the water. Karmic got absolutely deleted. Genetics gets credit for the kill. Globe will find Lasbro, though. That's not insignificant. Variety ult finds 2 on the stun. Gets knocked up on the Riptide, but Variety will still find the blade and go down to Globe. That's 2 for Globe, and they'll take that trade. Lasbro and Variety off the table.
And that's just a 2 for 2, but that is Food Drive for Globe are the ones looking to make the play. And Karmic too far forward too quickly in that fight. That is Genetics starting that fight with that Yemoja ultimate, and Karmic feeling like he's forced to go in. Valo was not ready for that fight to go. He did a lot once the fight had started, but he was not there with Karmic. Karmic gets bursted way, way too quickly, but it was a really nice trade. And so far, Team Risk, a lot of good team fights, but a lot of pressure has been onto Lasbra because he's the one that's, it feels like he's forced to go in first a lot of the times. I don't know if they plan on it, they want Lasbra to go in and they want Variety to wrap around and clean up fights, but Lasbra's going in, and whenever he looks to go in, Tegvir and Globe back up the perfect amount and then just collapse on him and get enough damage to the Krakens, stuff like that. I almost want Lasbra to play it just a little bit slower. Like if you maybe had one more item, you could maybe do that, but a little bit slower.
The dance of the Fire Giant begins. Genetic here to help. Happen tanking all that Fire Giant damage. They're here to contest this. They could steal it. Drop the ult. Cupid on everybody. Look, it will fall. 2 food drive for Globe, and now it's about keeping the buff. Maybe killing some more. Look at Valo doing a ton of damage. Variety takes down Tegvir, but Tegvir actually gets credit for that Genetics kill, and Valo's just trying to run, but there's no escape from Amaterasu. Variety picks it up, and this isn't going the way they wanted it to. Karmic has one, but Globe falls, and Karmic is the only one left with the Fire Giant buff. Variety keeps on slicing him. Karmic trying to get out of it, but the god of the underworld might find himself there soon again. Theeks is still alive as well. Tier 1 goes down.
Jorby, why do we get the Fire Giant and fight after? Let's take our win when we get it. And that's not even, you know, Team Risk running you down, forcing you to take the fight. Valo ulted in. Valo re-engaged on that fight, and if you use everything to try to burst the Fire Giant, you try to use your Sunders, you try to use your ultimates, like that's what they did, and then you fight after, it's gonna be a disaster. Like that was not a close fight. They were tail between their legs, running away. Karmic lives, yes. What's the point of one Fire Giant? I mean, I guess if your idea is, let's completely just put this game to a halt, let's just make it so nothing is really available to push this game. If that's your idea, fine. But the opportunity you have to get this Fire Giant on all 5 or maybe 4, because Happen's probably dead no matter what, is so much higher. Let's get Fire Giant and let's get out.
Yeah, you're looking for a decisive win, right? Not one that just stalls it out. They did get a little closer to evening up the gold. It's basically even now. But now the fight at the Gold Fury. And you're right, it feels like food drive when these team fights start. It's almost a little bit of improv from them. And the plan kind of falls apart after Lasbra jumps in. Rivers Rebuke is up to isolate Happen. Happen's not really too worried about it. Pops the shell. Ragnarok and the ult from Cuckoo finds Tegvir, and the poor guy has just been bullied all game. Happen is next up. He's gone. Valo does get a kill on the other side of it. Theeks with credit on Happen. There's not really a full way in with Happen off the table. You lose a lot of your front line. Karmic is here though. They want to contest this. Want to make sure that Team Risk don't get this Gold Fury. You do have the whole kit available to Karmic. Globe here as well. Team Risk, they're hesitant to start it. They want to make sure they know where exactly Karmic is. He's the only one with the Fire Giant buff right now.
And I like this for Team Risk. You don't have to go for this Gold Fury. Karmic is very, very strong right now. He has that blink. He has the ultimate. There's just too much threat on your backline. Yeah, it feels like you should be able to get more than what you got, but Variety zones, and this is like vintage Variety of his team kills 2, but he dies. This is exactly what he wants. That's a good trade, but Karmic is just still too strong. Globe still has that ultimate, still has that beads. There's just a little bit too much strength for food drive for Globe there, so I like that Team Risk opt to not do that.
Karmic in trouble now, got Ragnarok into the tower. You got too aggressive, hungry for Yemoja, but Yemoja ain't answering the phone.
No.
Kraken comes up, gets a lot of damage out. Globe staying alive with an inch of his health, but he gets absolutely deleted by Theeks on the 1, and now Happen is trapped in the rivers. We'll get out of it, but not for too long. Theeks with another kill, and he's getting racking them
He's
up
so
here
fast.
on the Cuckoo. Tegvir, what are you gonna do? Haven't been able to do anything all game. You're stuck in the whirlwind, the tornado. Goodbye.
It's a disaster. That is disastrous play there by food drive for Globe. Karmic unable to use ultimate, unable to use blink, just gets comboed by Lasbra and this Fenrir. That is the worst case scenario for food drive for Globe, because there's objectives on the map that Team Risk can get. They can now get these finished items. They can now play for these Gold Furies, get even more items into their builds. And the highest point right now is Theeks on this Cuckoo, who's been, I mean, this fight specifically, ran through this fight, but now he's going to be even, you know, deeper into the build. He's going to have this ob shard. He's going to be able to one-shot happen now. It's a big worry if you're Food Drive for Globe. There is very small opportunities on the next Fire Giant fight for Food Drive to make, but it's like this Team Risk comp around objectives, it is very easy to play. It's so easy. We have Shred, we have Sustain, we have Zoning, and unless you're making this massive play, like if you're Karmic, it's just going to be very difficult to defend an objective.
Yeah, I really wonder what Karmic was thinking in that mid lane dive.
Disaster.
Against Genetics. You get riptided into that. There's no one to support you. And why take a risk there after you had just evened things up? It was still close at that point. And now things become even harder for you. It's just difficult. But now they're chasing them down here on this right side. They really want to force the fight again.
And actually a really massive misplay by Team Risk. Nobody picked up the bomb after getting it, which is, I mean, that's 1,000 damage on this Fire Giant. If you miss this Fire Giant, you don't secure it. That's something to look back at.
Yeah, but I mean, they haven't won any of these team fights. Do Team Risk even feel like they need it? With how these team fights have gone, Happen exposes, that's Genetics, will pop the utility as well. Lasbra has Ragnarok, throwing it through the river. The ult completely misses from Veeks. That's a lot of damage off the table. Now Lasbra's in trouble. Karmic on the back line, trying to burst, misses Cuckoo, but traps Genetics, traps Variety, and has no health left, has to blink out. So there you go, they get one. Food Drive, everybody survives. Karmic is forced to back. They really don't know if that's even enough to actually get this Fire Giant. Team Risk certainly don't think so. They think they can go forward.
And Fire Giant is now down to 8K. There's not a ton of contest here by Team Risk.
Wall up as well. No ult from Cuckoo. And there you go. Order stays it. Valo. We'll take it. There you go. I was thinking Team Risk was Order for some reason. My brain was flipping around. They've honestly, Risk have stolen so many objectives from Food Drive over the last 2 days that I just expected it at that point.
And that's a really good fight by Food Drive for Globe. They get that pick, and it was a very good setup into the pick. Genetics is that first view, or the first idea by Food Drive for Globe, but it was a bad play by Team Risk. They were completely split.
Now they're in some trouble here. Getting 2 towers down, the tier 2 in mid is down. That helps even up that goal a little bit more. Things swing back. It's so crazy how one fight, one pick, can make all the difference when you've been slowly bleeding out, but you find a way back into it. Food Drive are surviving right now. Make no mistake about it. Just trying to stay alive for this 1 seed. They're hoping for a 3-way tiebreak again here after losing their first game against Smokebreak.
And I've been really impressed in these fights with Valo. I specifically said Valo and Happen are the ones that need to take that step forward. Happen's been fine, but really, Valo's been zoning Theeks and Streak so hard that they feel uncomfortable even walking up. And as he's hitting this level 20, he's getting more damage into his build. He's more of a threat. Valo's been not grouping ever. And I mean, you don't expect a Loki to ever group, but he finds these ways to get to the back line and poke them out minimum, and at the maximum, they're completely having to reset. They're completely backing up. And Team Risk is not a team where when you see them team fight, you rarely say, that was a sloppy fight, that was too split, you have to be grouped more. But that's 2 fights now in a row where Team Risk has been way too not grouped.
Karmic sitting under here with the helm. Trying to get a lot of that damage out. First out ult. Back into Genetics, he's in trouble and gone. Another soul for Hades. And coming forward, Streak actually gets Karmic off. Lasbra running quickly to get out. He had the Ragnarok to escape. That tier 2 still has to fall. They can't pressure them in there. Now they could if they wanted to, but with the health bars, I don't know if that's advisable. Globe avoiding the NATO, and they at least want to clear that wave out. Happen does have a lot of health here. They may want to take it. It's a 4v4. Health bars aren't really in their favor.
They can't do this.
It's cracking up for Globe as well. Lasbra will jump in. They're still going to play. Lasbra got absolutely blown up there. His health is gone. He couldn't do anything else. Variety also. We thought that might have been unfavorable, but they're being a little picky with when they choose to go in. Now they're going for the Phoenix. They really want it. Food Drive, they want to get as much value as possible, but you have to live as well. Variety almost found Happen with the wall out. Lasbra looking for Tagbeer. Streak gets him. Move it back. Valo picks up another with no Phoenix to survive. And Valo just trying to escape Variety on that Sunbeam bow. Hoping that Invis can come up quickly. Decoy to escape. You get silenced. You get stunned. You get deleted.
And that's 4 dead in just a second when Lasbra confirms this kill. Team Risk has a lot of opportunity to even this game now up after that left Phoenix goes down. And honestly, Food Drive for Globe had no business even going for that Phoenix, but Team Risk, for some reason, after an awesome defense, a lot of damage, chases outside of the Phoenix, and then they get punished chasing into this Poseidon, who returns just so much damage. I want to see, like, both of these teams, obviously, we're playing for a lot right here, but both of these teams, it almost feels like they're making good plays initially, and then instantly, seconds later, bad play, bad play.
I mean, this is just like even the bad play where they still stick on the Phoenix, they get the Phoenix, and there was still a window of opportunity for them to leave. But then they doubled down.
They fought with Tegveer.
They doubled down on it. And like, even if you just lose Tegveer in that fight, you're fine, because Streak was dead. And that's okay. But now, it's a different story again, and you tried to bite off more than you could chew, and there's too much burner.
To be fair, I think Food Drive for Globe is still in a fine spot. You've broken that left Phoenix. You had that pressure running down left until Fire Giant's up for the most part. So you still have that opportunity. And last time we saw the fight around Fire Giant, it was Genetics is the one that they first look at, but Genetics is not the target. That's just to get the fight started. And then it's Valo and it's Karmic are the ones that are looking to dive. But again, to focus on this next fight, Valo and Karmic are the ones that are really winning these fights for Food Drive for Globe. Karmic on that left Phoenix just goes a little too deep too early, again, where if he just waits it out, you kill Genetics. If you don't go in right there, there's an opportunity to get middle Phoenix also, but he goes too aggressive too quickly. I liked a lot more how he played this fight on the right, where he goes in deep and then he blinks out. If he has that blink, I think it allows him to make more plays, and as you see, his blink is available. So my eyes, Karmic is going to make a play here if Food Drive for Globe is going to win the fight.
Well, I think Food Drive for Globe, you know, I'm not a tie-break master genius, but I think even if they win this and then Team Risk beats Smoke Break, where the time is right now at 28 minutes. Remember, Smoke Break won in just 27 minutes plus. And if it is a three-way tiebreak, it comes down to how fast you won your game. So even if Food Drive win this, I think they might actually be locked out of the 1 seed. Again, that's not confirmed, but it is something to think about here. Food Drive still want to win this, even if you're locked out of that 1 seed, you still want that 2 seed happen. Locked up onto him. Lasper jumps on as well. The ult finds nothing from Theeks. His last 3 ults have found nothing.
And that left Phoenix right now, there's an entire wave and a half over on left side. I actually don't like Happen even walking up for a fight there. Make somebody show up in left here first, which gets confirmed right now. Now if you want to make a play, you should. But the problem is, Happen was 1/3 health. Now they can't make that play. Variety is free to go back, push out this left Phoenix, and now that little advantage of this left Phoenix being down that they had, Variety can now push up the next wave if he wants to and teleport over, because that's something that we haven't really, opened a ton up with, is you can push down left and then use that TP over to right side of the map, and Fire Giant, 16k health right now getting pulled.
Look at where Karmic and Valo are sitting, trying to find
they're making a play.
back around. Trying to do what Variety does, and there they go.
They're both invis.
Looking to make it. Can they find them? Karmic, Loki going together in the dark of the night. They slay Dinks on the backline. Explosion. Lasper falls back on the Karmic. Finds Ragnarok, pulls him out of it, and Karmic's in some trouble. He's gone, but Valo still has the daggers and keeps on collecting heads for his shelf. Still, Valo finds ways to make plays for Food Drive for Globe.
The double invis there was awesome, and at this point, Valo, all he has to do is just not let Lasper back. If Lasper doesn't back, we could be calling game right here. He found him. He stopped his back.
Lasper's in trouble. Valo chasing him down. It's not safe, buddy. You got to get out of there. He did have a leap, and that may get him out of it.
Gonna end.
Look at Happen. Globe and Tegveer, they know it. They can feel it. Genetics here saying, everybody, we got to get back. This Titan health bar is going to melt. They don't need the Fire Giant. Globe sitting under it. It's still falling. Food Drive for Globe. Run it down and beat Team Risk.
Awesome game by Food Drive for Globe there. And they analyzed what they needed to do on that defense, and they double invis in. They find both backliners grouped up together, and in Smite 2, you're only allowed beads or Aegis. Well, if you're taking this Hades ultimate damage, and then you're also getting stunned by the Loki, you're both dying, and you're not living through either of it.
Impressive stuff at the end, and of course, it's Valo alongside with Karmic to make that big difference. Valo's jungle all weekend, really all Founders Series long. He has been one of the best junglers in Smite. The way he has played, the way he has been a difference maker for his team, continues to do so, and to body up with Karmic at the end. Can't say enough about it. One of the best plays we've seen so far at the tournament, and despite some sloppy play. This was not a clean game. We talked about all of those things, but Team Risk also had some sloppy moments as well. So, I mean, great job from both teams, really, for most of that game to make up for that, but then Food Drive just close it out.
Yeah, and that's multiple stories into that game. But I think the most surprising thing is how sloppy Team Risk's team fights were. Like, that's kind of their calling card. They're not the greatest early game team, but they macro well.
They were good.
Yeah. And yesterday they played really well. They had came back after that day one loss to Smoke Break. They just team fought weird, and it was almost like Food Drive for Globe saw what they needed to do, and it was, we need to dive that back line. If we can do that, we win this game.
Well, Food Drive do win the game, but I really want to know what Malum and Trelly have to say about that one, guys.
Well, good news. I have our answers. We were talking about it, we were watching, and we both
sure
were
were.
equally shocked, and we had to jump up and get in here as the game all of a sudden pivoted on its head. A crazy end, the perfect utilization of the double invis and the helm, active items, stocks still going up for those who have been following that arc, and it gets more impressive every time. But again, Food Drive for Globe, they seem to have a resilience that of all the things we've talked about them, I feel like that's one aspect that we may have overlooked.
Yep, and, definitely something to consider, something that we brought up already. 30 minutes just about for this one, so it was slower than Smoke Break's win previously. We can talk about the possibilities on our next desk for one more tiebreaker to go. But regardless, Food Drive for Globe, I mean, they should be hyped about this one.
They should.
Another team that was able to take an L on that very pristine record from Team Risk. And I tend to agree with what the casters were saying. It was a bit sloppy. The team fight was, I mean, all you have to do is win that one team fight. Again, it's best of ones. We talked about that in the pregame desk, right? You don't really have to, come out swinging and make sure that every little play is hidden. You just need that one perfect engage, and it seemed like the combination of the Invis, Hades, and the Loki showing up to the back line just broke that fight wide open. I mean, there was a time when I thought Lasbro was going to get a meaningful Ragnarok off, but just couldn't connect. There was a lot of CC immunity to deal with. And the Fenrir looked relatively good, but at the end of the day, I'm going to take a Loki that can 100-0 someone when we reach that point in the game, right? It's just so much stronger.
I saw that same exact Ragnarok as you, where it felt like they might have had an early pick on to happen, and maybe that could have turned into more at the Fire Giant. And that's kind of another aspect of that whole game. Objectives felt messy from both sides in a sense, just in the fact of it never felt like anybody ever felt fully confident on a Fire Giant. It always felt like there was some kind of risk aspect to it. But it goes back to something you pointed out about the team fights. The way that Valo was able to seemingly always properly position really set himself up on the Loki to make meaningful decision high impact plays in the middle of team fights.
And another thing that I want to shout out is Karmic's ability to take this Hades again after the performance last game, right?
Unshaken.
I was not a fan of the Hades solo from Karmic. I didn't love the build. Me and Bobby were questioning it. Why do you need Obsidian Shard if you're just blowing up squishies? Why are you going pen? Just get as much int as possible. But this is a night and day difference as far as I'm concerned. Sure, the stat line doesn't look fantastic, like 5 and 6. That's kind of the play style, though. You're going in, you're stealthing to the back line, you're getting a kill, you're probably going to die. But you've traded out your life. Especially with so much on the line here, I was amazed that Karmic went back to it, but I'm glad he did. I mean, the gameplay spoke for itself here.
I like how unshaken, and I just like the commitment to it, because we talk so much about the needing to be confident in what you were going to play because you had limited time. You had that one shot in the best of one, and it seemed like Food Drive for Globe had no worries, no issues with it overall, and I find myself incredibly impressed by it.
Yeah, absolutely, and now we got to consider the possibility of more tiebreakers as far as just timing goes, because again, we saw an L just then, but now we got our dub. We have one more tiebreaker to go after this. Exciting stuff. I mean, what more could you want? We are in Vegas essentially. We are so close.
Funny you say it. I know one thing we could want, and it's the thing everybody always wants during games like this, to hear from the players, and we've got one standing by with Jorby.
We do indeed, Malin. We got star jungler Valo on Food Drive for Globe with us. Valo, first of all, I want you to take me through that last team fight. You and Karmic were sitting in the grass in the jungle for what felt like an entire minute, waiting for that team fight to develop. What are the comms like leading up to that moment in making that decision for you guys to go invis together on that back line?
Yeah, well, we just came up with the idea to sit in the bush by blue buff, and then we told the rest of our team to pull Fire Giant. We were just looking for a flank, and once we passed the Fenrir, it was just easy. We got to their backline, and when they don't see you, I mean, they just explode.
I mean, it certainly was an explosion, but I mean, this game kind of had an ebb and flow to it where there was a little bit of mess on both sides. So in some of those fights where it felt like Team Risk, they were starting to get the better of you guys midway through that game. What's going on in the comms in that moment? What were you looking at Team Risk, and what did you see to try to exploit?
Well, yeah, we knew we were on a timer. We lost the last game in 27 minutes, so we really just wanted to run it down. At a certain point, we just wanted to end the game as quick as possible, and to do that, we just had to force fire Giants, whether they were bad or not. We just had to get the game going. So, it worked in our favor, but yeah, it was just what we wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, you've looked really good on this Loki. Really, it hasn't mattered what character you've been on. You've looked great on them, but we've seen you play the Nemesis before, but a lot of Loki. Is Loki like your go-to, your preference, or is like, you obviously haven't been able to play any Thor this weekend, but like, what is the jungle that you most prefer, that you're most comfortable with?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Loki. Nem's fun too. They're just two completely different styles. Loki's, it's just a fun god to play, and ever since they added the reset on the one, it's just super fun. You can make plays on it, and it's my personal favorite, yeah.
Well, you look pretty good. Last question I have for you, though. Team Risk versus Smoke Break coming up. You guys couldn't take it against Smoke Break. Now you beat Team Risk, but who do you think has the better lineup there? Smoke Break already beat Team Risk once.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. If I had to guess, I'd say Risk would win the game. That's my guess.
All right, well, there you have it, Valo. Thank you so much for coming on for the interview, man. That is Valo from Food Drive for Globe. Malo?
Thanks, Jorbs. And I will say, when you guys see Mercury in Smite 2, Val stocks up even higher. That's another exciting one. But I find it interesting to hear, we're going to have a lot of time to talk about the game in the future, but to hear the Valo calls for Team Risk,
right.
I find that interesting considering how good Smoke Break has looked against Team Risk.
Well, first of all, am I allowed to call him Jorbs?
Yeah.
We're not on that basis.
I give you permission.
I've never heard that. I've always been a Jorby.
I called him it this morning and I liked it, so yeah,
okay,
I'm sticking with it. Well, I give you permission. We're both Anthony. So.
Jorby gave me the thumbs up.
Look at that.
So
thank you.
Thanks, Jorbs.
Bye, Jorbs.
Great interview, first and foremost, and also Valo just leaking strats, bro. Just telling us Loki's his favorite. I would have never guessed.
Maybe
by
it's
the
a bait.
12 Loki games we've seen him play. And
totally
he's
a bait.
Fantastic every single time. Definitely something to watch out for. But hey, if you're Food Drive for Globe, just sit back because you get to watch both of these teams now duke it out against each other. I'm a bit surprised that he favors Team Risk just because they just came off that loss.
Yeah.
Is that going to buff them and buff their mentals, or are they going to take it harder? I'm not really sure. We need to see cleaner team fights though in the next matchup if that's the case, right? Because
that's the big thing.
Smoke Break is definitely a squad that can exploit those weaknesses. They can punish you, especially if you show up a little bit sloppy. So excited to figure it out. I imagine they are brainstorming as we speak, trying to put a little bit of a damper in the plans of Smoke Break, but there's only one way to find out.
It's only getting more and more chaotic. We're getting closer to another tiebreaker. We've got timings that are starting to matter. We've got games that continue to be exciting. One more tiebreaker, and that tiebreaker lies on the other side of these messages. Don't go anywhere. One more tiebreaker to go, and I hope you've got your running shoes on, because you got to do it quick. It's Malm and Trelly, and it's more and more of this tiebreaker gauntlet that has been surprising, shocking, and now it's a speed case.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for those who are waiting on SMITE cart to come back, I've got really good news.
Well, they're not going to ride any carts.
That'd be so sick, though.
I would love it, and you know what? Clumsy constantly tweets about it, so we can cross our fingers, but... Yeah, we're coming down to the wire here, and that's kind of everything we wanted, right, from this tournament, is to always have impactful matchups. What you never want is to the point where these matchups mean nothing, and that is not where we are currently.
Not at all. So it's gotten kind of complicated, but the easiest thing to remember is Smoke Break, they're sitting really pretty if they just can play a good old-fashioned long game of Smite.
Right.
If Team Risk, though, if they're able to take the victory, if they're able to kind of speed their way through things and beat the time to beat, then it gets even messier.
Right. So Team Risk needs to win this game under 27-18, I believe was the exact timer.
Yeah, so write that down, get it in a notepad, get it ready. It's going to be mentioned a lot.
Extensively.
For this next game.
Extensively so.
And for Smoke Break, you get this really interesting dynamic of you're kind of playing to just keep things going.
Right.
We were, before we came on, we were all kind of talking the fun scenarios you could see. You could see a lot of Stampede active items built, Pyromancer bombs. So then if you're on defense, it's, all right, let's get Yamoja, let's get Odin, let's get Ymir, and here's your times to beat if you're trying to make it happen. So Food Drive for Globe, 30 minutes. Bit longer side compared to what we've seen for some games this week. 27-18, though, that Smoke Break was able to post. That's the kind of complicated one for Team Risk.
And yeah, Smoke Break, again, just waiting out the clock.
Yeah.
That is their plan. Once the timer hits 27-19, Smoke Break clenches their first seed, and they're chilling. Yeah, and that's the benefit of just winning. And you know what? Smoke Break could also simply win. That's another idea for them, right? that makes things real easy if they simply win the game. And that's one of our benefits as well. That's all you got to remember, right? The timer,
easy.
The casters will be bringing it up constantly. I can assure you that, because it's going to be on everyone's mind. But if Smoke Break just simply wins at any time, then they're chilling.
I do wonder how it's going to impact the draft, because
it's 100%.
One thing from what we were talking about, where I've landed, is it's going to be one of two things. It's just going to be another game of Smite 2, which is awesome. It's going to be a great game. Smoke Break and Team Risk, they've played each other a bunch. We're in a situation now where it could make it even more interesting. Mm-hmm. Or we're going to get one of those write it down, chaotic memories. You're sending the VOD and some clips to your friends of like, I don't know what I just watched, because it turns into, and I like exactly what you said, which was, at 20 minutes, it gets to this point of, are we in a position where we can just run it down? And how can we make this happen? Like, why not take the chance to do it?
And there's a possibility we see Team Risk just group up in some grass at around 20 minutes, look for an ambush, get some runic bombs, maybe try and backdoor. Like, those kind of strats, the ones that are win or lose the game on this, are never really viable until a situation like this, where it's best of one and you're on the clock. Like that opens up so many doors for us. Team Risk didn't have that much time to theorize about this, but I want to see what they cook up, because again, they have to win quick. That is exactly what they're thinking about here.
You've got to win quick, and it's all about the picks that get you there. So let's jump into P's and B's for this game and see where we go. Team Risk, they do have the first pick for this, which I feel like in this situation kind of helps, but at the same time, if you're going more creative, it may not make that big of a difference. It's going to be a wild one.
It certainly is. Team Risk in that first pick slot, thinking about their ban, and they opt to go with the Fenrir, something that can get ahead early. I like where their head's at, right? If Smoke Break, for some reason, drafts for late game, that's not that big of a concern, right? That you can just say, oh, we're going to pick full-on early pressure and make sure you never get to late game. So I think smoke break, honestly, I think if you overthink it too hard about trying to win quickly or try and stall, you're going to put yourself out. I think smoke break needs to play their own brand of Smite with early pressure. That's got to be the game plan here.
I like that. I do like the Odin ban for a multitude of reasons. It's been good for Lasbra and for Team Risk in general. We've seen Variety obviously look fantastic on the Odin. But if you get chaotic, if you can control the wall situation. That would be smoke break's play, is grab some walls, have him grab the Odin, but maybe this is a sign they're going slightly more traditional.
I mean, I'm not going to hate that. Again, it becomes much easier when you're playing traditional to just play your own version of Smite. Smoke break's own version of Smite is what's got them here, right?
Yeah.
That they haven't done any goofy strats.
It's just good Smite.
Exactly. It's good Smite too, and Team Risk didn't have answers for it twice already. So definitely not something that I'm going to complain about if Smoke Break just goes with their more traditional style of drafting. But Team Risk, they are the ones that really do have to switch it up here. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw, more pressure towards that duo lane, try to play through genetics. He's been able to have some pretty solid gameplay lately. But the one thing that I noticed, and he mentioned to us, was that like the Xerxes Hexstone sort of, meta caught him by surprise, and he wasn't going to sleep on it. And then last time we saw him play, he didn't get it. He died in a Hades ult that he pretty easily could have zoomed on out of with the boar. Like, he's baiting us, man. I don't get it.
There's a lot of ways to get it as we hang out to get back into picks and bans here. We'll have that up for you soon. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. I've got pulled up here. I have all the items, and I'm looking at all right, what can we get creative with? I'm seeing combinations you could do. Aggro mentioned a great one, which was grab a bunch of Scepter Dominions,
right.
Just keep putting them in stasis to buy yourself some time.
Yep.
I'm looking at, you could combine yourself, you could grab a Stampede, get a Hussar's Wings, give somebody a bomb, and just send one person in to be the hero. That could be pretty fun. There's a lot of different ways to go about it, but more time to theory craft. We'll be right back. We're going to get some stuff figured out. When we come back, we'll have all those exciting answers. Hey, thanks for hanging out and welcome on back. We did have a hardware issue with one of the PCs. We got everything figured out, settled, and we're going to be in picks and bans here very soon. So again, thank you for hanging out. Sorry for the delay, but don't worry, the chaotic game of run it down and go faster, go faster, go faster, it still lies in wait.
And it's still here, and again, if you're just tuning in or maybe you were chilling during the break and you had your ears turned off, we got a battle for speed here.
Yeah.
Trying to win or not lose as quickly or
one.
as slowly as possible.
Yeah, the not lose is kind of the big one because it's for Team Risk, it's go as fast as you can to get down the mid lane and win the game of chess, take out the Titan.
Yep.
And for Smoke Break, it's how comfortable can you get, how defensive can you get if you fall behind, or just win.
Yeah, and
plain
so
and simple.
Again, I was speaking as if you had never, if you were sitting there and you didn't hear the format. So real quick, we have tiebreakers, and the speed at which you won was one of the things that came into play. Smoke Break won in 27-18, which means Team Risk needs to beat them by 27-17, or else they cannot take over that first seed position. Remember, speed is everything.
Speed is
there you
definitely
go.
key
Now
here.
you're filled in. You're welcome.
27-17. Just keep that locked in. Keep that number in your head. Picks and bans is here. And the Fenrir and the Odin are back. We had that before we took our break. But first selection, it's going to be the Poseidon. So already our first sign of movement.
Yep, absolutely. Definitely a top meta pick.
Objectives as well.
Has been very impactful in just about every single role to play, but of course Sobek has been that other flip. If you want to talk about objective pressure, Ama certainly can bring that to the table, so I don't think you're ever going to complain about it for Smoke Break. And Jingwei has really fallen off here. Like, everyone is preferring the Cernanos in that carry role.
Yeah, I guess they're just kind of over the combination, the pairing. I suppose we can still see. I do wonder if we'll see the Cupid. I feel like if you are planning on either a just win or you are going a more defensive route, the Cupid gives you a lot of options in that of kind of stopping any type of assault.
Yeah, I guess the one benefit, though, is that CERN has much better early pressure, and again, if Team Risk is trying to win quickly, Jingwei's going to take a little bit of time to get online, so giving that one over to Smoke Break does not seem like the worst idea. Does seem like that Athena may just find her way into the jungle. Definitely a pick that has been coming up from time and time again. And you know what? If you're trying to help a lane that's falling behind, Defender of Olympus is a great way to do it. So it does seem to me a little bit, at least, like Smoke Break is trying to just stall.
Yeah, I'm with you for sure. Nemesis locked in, which that pick so far feels the most kind of against the grain of what we're expecting being so late. Bellona, though, I feel like this is a character who fits in so well to the situation at hand.
Absolutely, and there's that Cuckoo we were talking about. SAP7 has looked ridiculous on it, and I'm just looking at all of this setup for this pick, right? You've got the Athena taunt, you've got the Plucks, you've got Dazzling Offensive, so much ease of execution there on Serpent of the 9 Winds. I will be definitely paying attention to it. But you gotta look at Team Risk. Is this a composition that can run it down? I mean, the Nemesis does come out swinging, but Yamoja is one of the most early pressure Guardians you can really grab in that support role, right? You just spam your bubbles, your Moonstrikes, and try and get a first blood there, especially if a Sobek Pluck is messed up. That could be where the action comes. And then I'm just looking at CERN, Poseidon, Bellona, like the amount of objective shred they have. Gold Furies, 5 minutes I want to see on, right? The respawn timers here. Team Risk knows if they want to battle, if they want to fight for that first seed, this game needs to end before 27-18. They are going to be W keying and trying to, speed up the pace of this game.
You've got to do it. There's plenty of active items, which ironically Team Risk was the team that made active items such a big discussion point. So 27-17, that's the number. 27-17. Get that in your head. Remember it for this game because you've got to get to it quick if you're Team Risk.
Yep, absolutely. And again, Smoke Break. They just want to stall. Like they would like to win. That's
you
obvious.
can just win the game. Make this all
But
easy.
they are trying to make that timer hit 27-19, and they will just sit back and let it happen.
Well, 27-17. I'm sure the casters know it too. Let's find out and send it to game.
What a truly insane kind of stage that's been set here. inbound. A world where if Team Risk win, but do it in longer. We're waiting. It's too early. We're not going in. Not just yet. We got to think about the timer a little bit longer.
What's the timer?
27-17, I've been told.
And that is the.
But what a world where Team Risk could win the game in 27 minutes and 27 minutes even, and they'd be first seed at that point. They win the game in 27 minutes and 30 seconds. They're the third seed after beating the team that just became first seed. It's either first or third for Team Risk at this point, after dropping a game to Food Drive for Globe just a few minutes ago. A truly ridiculous stage. And on top of that, if you're first seed, you're chilling. You're on to Vegas. You don't have to worry about playing later on today. I've never actually casted a game quite like this where the timer is actually the biggest influence.
Yeah, and I almost feel like we're overthinking more than the players are with these timers, where it's like...
Probably are.
Like, oh, they picked Bologna? Well, we've seen Bologna picked into Ama before. It's one of the few matchups you can actually bully out the Ama. But, I mean, Bologna's also one of the characters where you want to sprint it down. You want to be winning the game before 27 minutes.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's got to be in the back of the player's mind as they're even loading into the game of, okay, well, how do we snowball this game? And, I mean, Smoke Break on the other side is, how are we going to avoid snowballing this game as much as we can? And when...
Do some of this, I guess.
This is actually like that level 1.
All right. W key forward. Find the kills. Get it going now. Echrom's in trouble. Blinks, Roots, Aegis's, all of it. It's on to Echrom, and Lasbra blinks forward for first blood. The stage has been set, and the timer is still counting down. We are at negative 30 seconds right now of game time. Lasbra with first blood for Team Risk. How'd to make the play?
Dave, how are you even allowing a possibility that you even get hit by an ability before minions have even spawned? You said the timer's still counting down to get to 0.
We're doing it again!
Okay, thank goodness. If Elion gets hit by that, what is happening?
Echrom doesn't have Aegis. Oh, man. Able to wander away, okay.
Dave, why? It's not we don't need to be in the jungle pre-0 seconds. Minions are not up, waves are not pushing. But, I mean, you have to, like, be happy with what Team Risk is doing, how they're opting to play this game, putting the pressure on. They're looking for even proxying between tier 1s, tier 2s, harassing as much as they can. And it's every kill matters, every invade matters for a game. I mean, you've said it yourself. What's the last time actual timing in-game matters? It's not just that win. And speeding up that game, that's the important part.
Streak and Genetics, they will invade just together. Normally we see a jungler here, but right now it's just Genetics and Streak. Leon, low, dashes away, saved it for the last possible second. Minions still making their way out to lane. Johnny and Lasbra dueling it out in the jungle. Looks like Johnny was actually able to invade the Genetics and Streak side of the jungle. And so really, look, Team Risk, they have to take some of these risks inbound to get things going really. Great at first blood. Now showing us the strategy maybe, let's stick a Yamoja and a Cern on the purple buff and just delay them, get them back to base as quickly as we can.
And we saw this last game by Food Drive for Globe in the dual lane against Team Risk, where they're not even level 2. Let's just bully them out.
Leon dashes away again. We've seen this a few times. Lasbra's here, and the second kill of the game for the Nemesis. The wheels start turning a bit here, and you may look to the top of the screen.
Echrom's not 2.
And see that counter counting up. I see Echrom dashing away, and now Streak up on the board. Team Risk, 3 kills in the first minute and 40 seconds as that timer continues to pile up.
I almost think this is getting in Smoke Break's head so much so far. These are like blatant misplays. That level 1 death, not great. Using your Aegis, really bad. Now Streak or Echrom is trying to get level 2 and he's walking too far forward and he's putting himself into position to die again. And I mean, honestly, beautiful so far by Team Risk.
All right, well, here's an answer back for Smoke Break. Last auto onto Variety will give Johnny his first kill of the game, but the dual lane has gone sideways. Echrom did not use his Aegis a moment ago. Don't know if it was just not up or chose not to use it, but had it for this engagement. E-Chrome is still level 1 at 2.5 minutes and is now wandering towards the right side of the map, desperately needing some farm.
And I actually like that he's splitting to the other side just to find some semblance of farm, because you look at the other side of the map, there's not as big of a threat, but Dave, there's no farm on the right side of the map.
Benko is on the left side of the map. LAON once again wandering away from the fight. The rest of Smokebreak in. Genetics taunted, and Smokebreak out of nowhere have shifted everyone towards left and have gotten a kill onto the Emoja that was off to a 3-assist start. E-Chrome has just now hit level 2, by the way, at the 3-minute mark.
What an exciting early game so far.
I know.
And it's both of these teams, they're playing around this timer. They're 100%, they have that timer in the back of their mind, and it's going to be something that carries over every minute that passes, every second that passes. Theek's really far forward here.
He's in some trouble. This is what Smokebreak needs after a really brutal start to the game. Last tick of damage won't make its way in. Kraken as a separator, but Johnny with a dash, a taunt, and a spear evens up our kills. So really that early lead that Team Risk had built up, almost all for naught at this point. The duo lane still feels bad for Smokebreak, still a level or 2 behind. But the rest of the map feeling a little bit better as E-Chrome has gotten the feet underneath this Jingwei. Maybe that rotation out to the right side was impactful, but Genetics on the Emoja just chunking down E-Chrome. Nobody from Team Risk, though, on this side of the jungle to help out.
And outside of dual lane, Smokebreak's in a fine spot to slow this game down, to reach that mark, but I'm very worried about how E-Chrome is even going to be able to live, and how LAON is going to be able to live into this Yemoja Cernanos. They have a lot of damage, they have a lot of CC, and this is the lane that you want to play through when you're going for Gold Furies and such like that.
I'm looking at what you were talking about inbound. Pick up Alona, get active, get the wheels turning. Variety is down in levels right now to Benko on the Amaterasu.
And he's switching up his build also on this Bologna. He is going for that same style build Alma with that Sunbeam bow, which we've not seen yet. So I'm very curious how this is going to look. Is it allowing you to out-trade Amaterasu? Yes, your disarm allows him to not auto-attack. Your 1 absorbs those auto-attacks. But can you still win those 1v1s with this Sunbeam bow? I mean, this is not a real normal 1v1 matchup we've seen much this weekend, and we've really not seen both duo lane or solo laners build Sunbeam bow. But 5 minutes, Dave, Gold Fury.
Streak, a 2-level lead over in duo lane. E-Chrome hits level 5, an all-important ultimate for this Jingwei to get so much more safety now. Rotation towards the Gold Fury, you're right, but the rest of Team Risk not here. As Johnny has his ultimate, can rejoin this fight, and he sure will. Sap receives the assistance of the Athena. Theeks without that ultimate now, the one who may actually end up dying off. Last bit of damage from the Whirlpool gets it done. Johnny back in the kill feed. Lasbra does not have ultimate, but would love to finish off one of these low health targets. And now we're starting to go the opposite direction if we're Team Risk. You stacked up a couple kills early, but the recent kills have been going to Smokebreak.
I'm worried that Team Risk thinks 27 minutes is shorter than what it is. 27 minutes is not a slow time. Fight on the sap.
Genetics dodges out some damage, but the last little bit will make it in. Sap 7 lives. LAON with the kill. Smokebreak starting to spin up. Variety underneath the tier 1 tower gets the kill, but immediately traded out. As LAON with 2 kills in this fight over in mid will not chase down any further onto Laz.
Dave, they have dropped the conquest-style game that we're used to seeing from Team Risk. They've turned this into an arena. They want to just keep fighting, but I think they're trying to speed this game up too much. Like, you're risking losing everything just for this really, really small lead.
It's a thin balance. Theeks just now getting that Kraken back off of cooldown in a rotation from Smokebreak to gold. But is there an answer from Team Risk? The duo lane is back in lane. We're thinking Team Risk may need to force an early Gold Fury streak. An all-important steal chance here. Sentence down, Polymorph doesn't matter. Benko is not in this game. Benko gets the Gold Fury. And I was wondering if maybe we'd see Risk force an early Gold Fury. It's gone to the other team.
And Dave, this is flat out like unbecoming of Team Risk. This is not a style we're used to seeing from them. And I think that they almost overestimate how fast they have to win this game. 10 kills in 7 minutes is not
20
a team
minutes,
risk.
by the way, is your timer now.
Yeah, 20 minutes, that's still plenty of time, but it almost feels like they have already, set themselves so far back with trying to push as quick as possible. I kind of hated how they played that early game. It was sloppy. It was they were trying to force opportunities that weren't there, and Smokebreak has, past that first couple minutes when they entered in their own jungle before minions spawned, like their rotations with Benko just walking over to not allow Gold Fury, Johnny covering that right side of the map, and if a fight breaks out, they have that Athena threat, and that's the one thing that stands out to me. This Athena allows you to just split push and keep farm away, and then if a fight breaks out, you can just ult in.
Variety was looking for the solo, but when there's an Athena on the map, you can never count on a 1v1. Johnny with his 5th of the game. You have to wonder, Johnny, a player that very versatile, can change up the speed at which he plays. You almost wonder if when chaos is brought to his doorstep, he likes that style of game. 5-1-2 on an Athena jungle that we've already seen play. Some really, really good sets of Smite here this weekend. And admittedly, I'm glad to see this from Smokebreak. Don't love when a team plays not to lose. And it was a little confusing early from Smokebreak, but inbound, it seems like a team that's now actively trying to win. Why care about the timer when we can just win the game?
Yeah, especially when you see Team Risk making these plays that are just sloppy. Like, they're easy punishes.
Yep.
They are blatantly disrespectful calls that it's just like, you're playing not to lose, this will look beautiful, but if you're actually fighting back, if you're actually thinking about what we're opting to do, that's the problem.
Smokebreak 3 versus 2 in duo lane. Streak Up, who had the lead for a little while, now back to even with Echrome. Echrome didn't hit level 2, right, until 3 minutes. Well, now Streak Up and Echrome are right back to even. All of that early pressure, seemingly for naught. But inbound, you're a player. This is an interesting thought experiment.
Have I ever been here before?
Have you ever loaded into a game where you've had to beat a timer? I'm not sure you have. What are you telling the teammates? If you're Team Risk, are some of these sloppy plays just a product of, well, dang, we got to win in the next 27?
I think for sure.
Some of it excusable?
Yeah, for sure. I think they're putting too much pressure on themselves with this timer. Like, we have seen a...
What are you telling your team? You load into game.
Breathe. Loading into game, it's, guys, we just got to win this before 27 minutes. The game doesn't have to be over by 10, and that's what Team Risk tried to do. I liked the early game, but that wasn't risky. There was no risk about grouping early game. There was nothing to lose on the other side of the map. But once that minion spawns, the buff spawns, and there's something that you can trade for Smokebreak, that's when it got bad for Team Risk. And it's almost, even at this point, this is a completely winnable game before 27 minutes. There's no worry.
Yep.
But I almost think the pressure is on themselves, and it's doubling down every minute that goes by, and they get more and more worried that they have to make a play. Like, this is a good play. Getting a Jingwei ult is always going to be a phenomenal play.
Almost.
But last time we saw this, they tried to do it again 10 seconds later, and Smokebreak, knowing that's coming, rotated it.
Man, Variety has been caught by this trap just a few too many times. Add one to that column. Benko. I knew he did it again. Oh, I did it right. Benko. I knew he said BenQ again. First kill of the game, but 4 assists. Variety dropped 4 times. This baloney, you're trying to stack up some kills. But the Athena has just been there every single time. Gold Fury now back up. Genetics caught in his own River's Rebuke. Spirit of the Nine wins, catches out the Yamoja, and Zap 7's got the last bit of damage. Genetics returns the favor from the grave. Streak left running. Smokebreak dropped 3 across the map.
And that's a really good grouping by Smokebreak there. Variety's dead, and they know that Gold Fury is available, and this is another objective on the map for Smokebreak to speed this game up to that 27 minutes. So far, really impressive by Smokebreak.
I don't know, inbound, this is looking rough for Team Risk. Still a winnable opportunity, of course. But think back to like some analysis you would be doing. You'd say, okay, maybe Team Risk could slow down. Maybe you could push this game, like in a traditional game, we're looking 15, 20 minutes from now. 15, 20 minutes from now. Yeah, Smokebreak have already locked in the #1 seed. And I'm not, who knows what they'll do from that point. They could do whatever they want. Team Risk, now you are maybe going to have to start playing riskier than what we've seen.
And now this is the time where you 100% would want to see that risky play where you want to kind of make compounding plays to push your lead a little bit, but the weird early game and this weird style of not playing around what Athena brings is really coming back to bite Team Risk. But, I mean, you make a 2v1 play over in dual lane at this point. You know who's getting called over? That 6-1 level 13 Athena jungle, and you're not winning that 2v2 into her. So you have to, I mean, at this point, try to fight onto the Athena. You have to try to make a play there. But Dave, if Lasbra is the one matching this Athena, there is a massive, massive difference in the survivability that they provide and the damage and the CC. It's not over yet, but it's tough. Very, very tough spot for Team Risk.
We're about halfway to that metric that we keep talking about. You and I see a timer counting up at the top of the screen. You know, if you're Team Risk, I got to imagine what you're really seeing is and feeling is a timer counting down. Now, of course, to recontextualize all this, Team Risk are going to Vegas. They are going to be at our event. But you'd love to win this game quickly and just not have to play for the rest of the day. That's what SMITE fighting for. And if Team Risk lose, that'll be your 3rd seed team. And then you got to play Borscht later on today. That's not much of a consolation prize. Borscht has been looking pretty good. And so that 1st versus 3rd seed difference weighing on Team Risk, but SMITE bought their time early and have now got a great opportunity to slow things down. And in moments like this, there's not much to fight for. SMITE probably happy to just sit back and farm.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. With SMITE, playing to lose is not a style you want to reach until it's later into the game where you can actually just kind of give everything up and not threaten that actual loss. And their style, the early game, it was weird. It was almost like they were playing not to lose. And then that mid-game hit, and they started playing smart. They started making plays and started to try to win a little bit.
Felt that way for sure. SMITE sent their support over to the Pyromancer. Team Risk pulled the neutral objective. Man, this is just LAON, distracting dash, lurking in the waters, Hexstone in the Sobek, out just fine. Variety 1 and 5, and inbound, that's where you put a lot of your emphasis. This Bologna Soul lane is when you want to play quickly. Well, most deaths on the team. Now it's Variety out of solo lane, and it looks like Genetics able to steal the Pyromancer away, so over the wall, Genetics gets something done. May pay for it with his life dodges out. The Spirit of the Nine wins. The dazzling offensive and E-Chrome, though, catch him on the flip side. A steal onto the Pyro feels great. Does not change the game.
I do really like that steal, even more so than Genetics' death.
Oh, no.
Go pick up this bomb. You have to try to get this steal, Dave. You have to try to get it.
Can someone get close, pick up that bomb, and drop it right around the FG? The Fire Giant's low, 1.5 HP, and Johnny gets the Fire Giant. Lasbra went in, last chance to steal it away, and comes up just a bit short. SMITE may win this game before 27 minutes at this rate, trying to break their own record from this morning.
Yeah, and that's not good for Team Risk. Yeah, obviously losing the game isn't going to be good, but you need to win this game in 12 minutes. The timer's what, 12 or 27-20, I think.
27-20-ish is when you need to win by. You're down to 11:30 right now left to win the game.
And Team Risk is, I mean, this is not even far behind this is far behind for a normal game, not a game that's on a timer. You have to just, I mean, you have 10 minutes to completely turn this game around and end it, just about. You have to just start running it down, trying to make plays, 5-man grouping. I almost want Team Risk to 5-man group and just put pressure in a lane, whether it's right lane, left lane, somewhere. You have to be putting pressure onto SMITE, and it's aggro a lot of the times. It says, you know, if you make somebody make a bunch of decisions, slowly those decisions become harder to make, the decision fatigue. Start making them make a lot of decisions. Go down right, start sprinting it down, sitting under your towers, farming. You can't do that at this point.
Felt like E-Chrome had to make a ton of decisions right off the bat in this game, and then just got easier as the game went on. Here's the really bad news for Team Risk. They essentially have no damage on any of these Tier 1 towers, so you're fighting way out in the map with only about 10 minutes left to go. Johnny, I mean, he'll take this 1v1 every day of the week, avoiding most of the damage from Variety, avoids the stun from the Eagles rally, and we're gonna delay things, but Johnny's fine with that. One more auto, Johnny gets it done, a killing spree. Been a real brutal game for Variety.
Why is there nobody grouping with Variety there to just kill Johnny or to force Johnny's ult out? Why are they splitting? What's the point at this point? This is not a hard call for Smokebreak to make. I'll send one right, we'll defend that lane. I'll send one left. There's no risk here. What's happening?
This is gonna hurt. Benko sends Dazzling Offensive right towards Streak, but guess what? Johnny's joined the fight. That's the last thing you want to see if you're Team Risk, is this massive Athena in your front line. Dodges out the root, dodges out the tower. Streak Up may live, but only for another moment or two. Taunt will get this one done. Johnny has totally taken this game over. An inbound Smokebreak looking real nice for that first seed, and probably the last we'll see of this team until we're at Vegas.
And I mean, even more than just this game, I think Smokebreak has impressed this entire weekend. I think they had a stutter or two here against Food Drive for Globe, who, I mean, we could talk about this group as a whole.
Yeah, this group has
been
great.
Competitive group.
Been great.
Awesome that it came down to today. This game, a completely different style of SMITE than either team is really used to. I mean, we've said it a few times now. How often do you play a game where you have to end it by a certain time? And, I mean, to be fair to Smokebreak, I mean, other than the first 30 seconds, it's been nearly flawless playing to delay this game.
Man, it's gonna happen to Variety again here. Benko, a 2-level lead, 1-0-10. Support KDA. Yeah, this tells you where this game is at. Variety knows his place in this lane. And another one for Smokebreak. I mean, you gotta keep the intrigue alive a little bit. And maybe we truly are at the point inbound where it is a 5-man group.
You have to at this point.
And see what you can get done under a tower. Everyone is so far. Lasbra 6 levels behind. I didn't even notice that. Lasbra's behind the supports. The Nemesis has not been able to get much farming done. I don't know if a 5-man grouping looks a lot better for Team Risk either way, but send a couple towards left, see if you can get a pick, and then group up this fight. You've got to try something here. Got to get proactive in the last 7 minutes of your timer.
Let me give you this, Dave. I think your one opportunity to really put yourself into a position this game is around this Poseidon. I think Theeks is the one where maybe the build's not far enough in it to really threaten or actually get a kill, but Theeks has got to put he's got to go all in on something very soon, because even if you win one massive fight, a 5v5, you get a wipe, the game's not ending at that point. They're going to spawn up, and you'll have to do it another time where they're then ready for that play. And it's coming up on that time where Theeks has to be involved in something.
Variety's been involved in 7 things so far this game. Make it 8. Disarm will delay out the last auto attack. Echrome will send it out whenever. I mean, really unfortunate for Team Risk. You need to be as ahead as you are behind at this point in the game to have a chance of winning it before the timer. Echrome completes the kill onto Variety. Lasbra desperately trying to find something onto the Amaterasu. Instead, it's Sap7 dashing forward, Lasbra dashing out and away. And 3 deaths in the game for the Nemesis. Man, Smokebreak really flipped the script on us this game. They said, not only are we not going to lose in 27 minutes, but we're going to win in just over 20. That's what it seems like. Still, 3 members alive for Team Risk, and could just be 1 last siege for Smokebreak.
Yeah, there's real no opportunity here. Taunt gets out that talisman. I mean, I guess Cuckoo ult's used, so you can't end the game yet. So it's still available. You got 6 minutes, Dave.
While they're on fire, Giant, you just run down left side and
do it. I'm ready.
Get the Ancient Fury, run down the left side of the map. I'm cooking now. This is exactly how Team Risk are going to get back into the game. No chance. Smokebreak far enough ahead. This Fire Giant, clean and easy. There's a Pyro Bomb that Lasbra's picked up. Maybe that comes out to play. We are 6 minutes away, however, from the outcome not really mattering. Whichever Titan dies in 6 minutes, it's going to be Smokebreak as your #1 seed.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Titan dies, or Team Risk's Titan is the one that dies before that 6 minutes even reaching there. This is
a brave call. That's a brave call. They're inbound.
Going for #9.
Can he get it? That's the question. I think if Variety really wanted to die one more time, he could die one more time.
Beyond this one?
That's a good call, because Variety is going to die 45 seconds? Yeah. I bet Variety will,
I don't think he does.
Maybe not.
I don't think he does.
A lot of time left on this Fire Giant buff. Just got picked up, and Lasbra's going to die 5 levels down to Johnny. Maybe. The Nemesis shreds, but Johnny's simply got too much health. So 3 members of Team Risk left on the defense. Team Risk needed to win in 27-20. They are about to lose in like 23. We have gone way too fast, but in the other direction, Smokebreak won their tiebreaker early this morning, and they'll win their second chance, and Smokebreak will finish as top seed.
And just a wonderful, wonderful end there by Smokebreak. And you got to highlight the middle portion of that game for Smokebreak. There was a few plays here or there. Team Risk started snowballing a little bit, but the idea behind, Athena can just sit and farm in solo lane. Benko can go harass around the Gold Fury. And then if a fight breaks out, Johnny can be there in no time. I really think the Athena pick was what rounded out Smokebreak's idea behind delaying this game to 27 minutes because, in the end, they didn't have to delay the game to 27 minutes. They're winning in 23.
Yep. And now Team Risk, they've got to recenter themselves and quickly. These last 3 games that we got this morning, this was all bonus SMITE. The qualifiers into Vegas. These were those last 3 games. We're going to have 2 best of 3s later today that are the official start of our Vegas Founder Series Finals bracket. And so the game that Team Risk is going to have to play later today against Borscht, that is the start of your tournament in Vegas. Either you go to Las Vegas in the upper bracket, or if you lose against Borscht today, you're in the lower bracket to start off in Vegas. So you lose a really brutal one in 20 minutes, and you've still got to play your first game of the actual tournament.
Yeah, I think that's 100% something correct to highlight because you're kind of reeling after a game like that where you needed to win quickly and you lost even quicker than you needed to win. Because now, can you reset yourselves? Can you kind of go back, get ready for this next best of 3? Because this was just a best of 1. They now have that best of 3 to also go for.
Yep.
I'm not jealous of Team Risk and what they're having to do today.
No, and Food Drive for Globe watching along with that one, that'll confirm Food Drive for Globe as the 2nd seed from this group. That means they'll match up against Mockingbird in their matchup later on today. But for Smokebreak, not Team Risk, for Smokebreak, that's the last we'll see from them until the official tournament out in Las Vegas. And it's a team, Inbound, that I think turned things around very effectively. It was a slower start to this weekend, but the last handful of games that we saw Smokebreak play were all really convincing.
Yeah, and they finally found like a style that really worked. Johnny, we talk about Johnny ad nauseum when we talk about this team. Multiple different styles, all of them play really well. I liked that Athena. That Athena looked really good. And being able to now pick that, flex that, maybe even, this is a dangerous team who nobody really plays the entire style like they do. And it just makes them more interesting to watch because you're not going to get this type of SMITE from another team.
No, you won't. And that was the risk, pun half intended. Appreciate it, Troy. Thanks, Desk. Appreciate you, fellas. It was the risk in, I think, dragging Johnny and the rest of Smokebreak into this style of game. Because how many times in SPL, SEC days have passed, have we seen Johnny sort of thrive in that chaos? This is just another example, and that Athena jungle looked real, real good. So the timer, all for naught. It's Smokebreak taking the win anyway, and they will take number 1 seed as well. Some interesting stuff to break down there. I suppose we'll let the Desk take their best try.
Well, damn. Huh? so much for all the cool stuff. It was pretty cool if you're a Smokebreak fan, but tough to be Team Risk in that one. We were right about 2 things.
Okay.
SMITE cart is back.
Yes, absolutely.
First character has to be the Anubis for Smokebreak. The Starfish.
He's behind both of us. That's great. First and foremost.
The Starfish. The second thing, you were right. All Smokebreak had to worry about was winning the game.
Let's take it back though. Let's be real. Let's be honest. Let's be truthful.
Straight talk only right here.
Smokebreak could not beat Team Risk months and months ago leading up to this tournament. They played many times. Was not close. Johnny did not have these pop-off performances, right? I'm not saying that Johnny was the problem. I'm just saying that as a whole, the squad could not compete. Team Risk was far and way between the best team in EMEA by far. And everyone would have agreed with you. I've interviewed these players. They've all said the same thing. Leon wasn't even on this team. He was a sub. right? He comes in because Silence wasn't able to make it. So is it the fact that, Team Risk just ran into like this unmovable object? I don't think so. They've taken more L's than just a smoke break.
Let's not forget they had a good start to the game.
Right. I mean, they clearly came into this matchup in particular with the mindset of we need to win quickly. Nightmare start here for Leon and Echrome. They both leveled their movement abilities. We had Pluck and Jingwei Dash at level 1. And then Genetics and Streak said, we're just going to sit in front of you. You can't get any farm. And I think you got to give highlight to Benko. He teleported over as a level 4 Ama and said, you know what, my dual lane's level 1, but I'm going to help you guys out. I believe they killed Genetics off that rotation, and then they get the squad level 2. Johnny had already killed Variety at that point on the other side of the map. Like, don't get me wrong, everyone but the dual lane was doing fine on Smoke Break, but the dual lane was in shambles. I think everyone was like, oh man, they might do this. They might actually win before 27 minutes. But the Athena was just popping off. The Amaterasu was starting to look real clean. I mean, SAP 7 was never in contention. It was really just the duo lane that needed to get that catch-up. And then after it happened, Leon started confirming so many kills. I mean, the Sobek was very far ahead as well. I mean, his lights-out performance here from Smokebreak to take the #1 seed, and very well-deserved.
Very well-deserved indeed. A matter of fact, so well-deserved after a game like that. It's only right to hear from one of the players. So over to you, Dulcin.
Yeah, of course. Who else but Johnny with me here for the post-game interview. First of all, that was the first game I've ever casted where like the timer in a game actually mattered. It's usually just been whoever went, however that shakes out. I've never casted a game where the timer really matters. Was that the first game you've ever played where you had to win or lose in a certain amount of time? And did you approach it any differently than you would a normal game?
Yeah, Sam, that's the first instance I've seen that it matters. So, I mean, we try to not think about it. I mean, it's like, of course, it's in the back of your head always, but yeah, just try to play our game.
Well, and talk to me about the way that game started. We're sort of as casters setting the stage, Team Risk, they need to play quickly. And then they start off with a first blood in the jungle to Echrome, stack up another kill or two. How do you guys communicate after that to sort of calm down and
yeah,
the rest of the
it's
game?
so bad. We just had one job, just not to get stomped, and with the start, I was like, maybe they can actually do it. But then he got a kill in solo, I think 1 or 2 kills, and then we kind of stabilized from that. Yeah, and that had an early rotation to do, and that's kind of got even from there. And
did you get the feeling that Team Risk were maybe, I mean, obviously they had to try to win really quickly. Do you think that's something you were able to capitalize on? Do you think they made some mistakes that they made not otherwise because they had
I mean, probably at like 15 minutes they realized it's not going to happen, so they kind of just gave up, I feel like.
Understood. Hey, that's a first seed for you guys. A great tournament from you. Excited to see what you get done in Vegas. Great game from you personally as well. And the desk will take it from here.
Thank you. And a big time kudos for the Athena gameplay. And that was crazy. I feel like that's one. That's a good, fun start of what SMITE 2 Founder Series can look like at its most chaotic.
Of course.
But I feel like an important note is that in terms of the craziness, that's kind of the end for the crazy stuff. Now actually begins the Vegas portion
real Vegas
of
bracket.
this, what we've been playing for. We're in the Vegas bracket, and we got just the thing to help us talk about it. We have the schedule to see where we're going from here. And the tiebreaker one, first of all. Like, how do I even fully go back and through this? I've been thinking the whole time, how do we fully break down what we saw? How do we do it justice? But it's one of those, you had to be there. You had to experience that timer. You had to experience the flow of the games.
Yeah, and anyone who thought that, like, seeing teams push to their limit wasn't enjoyable, we are not the same.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Couldn't
like,
be us.
The fact that you have to understand, Team Risk spawned into that game and said, we need to win as quickly as possible. We need to do some outlandish things to make sure that we either, like, hard win or we're going to hard lose. And that's what happened. They tried a risky strategy to try and make sure that they could win as quickly as possible because of the position they put themselves in, right? If they weren't if they simply won earlier on, they wouldn't have had to worry about these sort of things, right? So they ended up in this spot, and so they had to just throw something at the wall and hope it sticks. And that's exciting. You know?
It is.
I don't know what to tell you.
But what's important now is to remember the tiebreakers, crazy, exciting timers, this, that. That's now the past, and the present becomes the Vegas bracket. We've made it that road to Vegas. The bracket starts now. We can take a look at that and see where we're at as well. And, oh, man, just seeing it, like, it hit me if we're actually to this point. We got Food Drive for Globe versus Mockingbird, and Borscht versus Team Risk 5Ms and Smoke Break will be sitting comfortable and patiently waiting.
Yep, and there you go. You get to see what we are looking forward to, and of course what we will see in the next couple of minutes, right? We are going to start off this bracket to figure out 5M's opponent and Smoke Break's opponent. That's what they get for getting first seed. They get to chill. They get to sit back and just watch. We will not start match 3 and match 4 until we are in Vegas, but we got to figure out who's getting there.
Yep.
And that's coming up real soon. I mean, the logos look so clean. The bracket looks so clean. I'm excited, man.
The designs are there. Getting to see the Vegas fonts out.
This is where it hits you, right? We are here. This is what we've been working to for. I mean,
how long have we been saying the road to Vegas?
Malum, you started with us when we cut this off. I mean, it's been a minute.
My first day was the very first Smite 2 tournament, and that was all part of just that, getting teams interested and on the grind on the road to Vegas.
Was that in August? I don't even
August,
remember.
July, yeah.
Yeah, so around that time. It's been a minute. It's been all culminating into this. And my goodness, would you have expected these are the teams that we would be looking at?
I mean, it's funny because a couple of them, 5Ms from the beginning.
Of course,
they were a big, highly talked about team for good reason. Team Risk, you can say the same thing. Borscht, there was a discussion around the roster construction at the time. Fine OK was support. Of course, Rat Milk was a slightly unknown component to some around the community. But for Mockingbird to be here, Smoke Break to go through everything they went through, in particular, Elion to go through everything he went through, but still be going to Vegas as a part of Smoke Break. And of course, Food Drive for Globe, knocking down the barriers of SCC that they had faced for so long as a unit, and I know so many other teams had experienced. Sheesh, huh?
That was really cool.
It's really starting to hit me. It'll change back there too. Oh, we are so bad. We're so bad. There's so much to it, and I just hope it hits the players the same way, and we get to see fully that mindset switch of it's the big time now.
And I don't know if you guys are fully grasping this, but the gameplay that you just witnessed and the gameplay that will be played in Vegas is so
completely different game.
Entirely different. The amount of gods that will be added, the amount of changes to the game. You just gotta take it in.
Good. Yep.
Take it in because we're in the midst of the good old days. They're happening right now in front of us.
Yep, exactly. It feels like so recent where we were kind of saying our, we'll see you soon to the Pro League for Smite 1, but for things to pick up to be here at this moment, now it's just a matter of what teams really pick up that pace, up the ante for the big moments.
And just because you're playing clean right now does not mean you'll have that same level. You have to keep the grind going up through the holiday season. Leading up into Vegas, there's going to be a lot of patches to try and figure out, a lot of gods to try and learn. And that's exciting too, right? Who is going to become the mastermind of those sets? We still have games to play today. We are looking so far into the future.
How can you not?
But it's close. It's
how
very
can you
close.
Not get locked in on that future, on all the different kind of possibilities that we have going forward? It's genuinely a possibility not to consider it.
My goodness.
I'm sitting here just like, just actually enjoying the moment of wow, we're actually here. You keep bring up this point, and everybody rightfully so brings up this point of things are going to change so much, and I don't think we can overstate how different they'll be. That's really important for today. The next two best of threes strategy, you can simply throw it all out there. There's nothing that you can hold on to strategy wise, because this will not be the same version even close of Smite 2 by the time we get to Vegas.
Exactly. If you were holding on to like a early strat or like a pocket pick that you didn't want to show,
it's time.
The meta could shift so much that pick means nothing or is much more broken and could get banned away in the next couple weeks. So yeah, I think now would be the time to leave everything on the table, because again, you're also playing for staying up in that winner's bracket. It's a double immolation. You want to stay up top for as long as possible. I mean, you'd love to just never lose, but everyone's got to every single time. So making sure you leave everything out there on the battleground is going to be important as well. And if you did just take a hard loss, you got to wipe that off, right? This is a completely different set as well. If you're Team Rez, that there's going to be a lot that you got to just shake off quickly. That's competitive esports in general, though. Even if you do, you may have to play another matchup after taking a hard loss, and you have to have that short memory.
And the experience of so many of these players, and I do think of Team Risk, where they have the experience to be able to shake this off and move forward and say, all right, it was weird circumstances. The tiebreaker itself was a lot to adjust to. The timer thing, maybe that did get in our heads. Maybe it didn't, but like whatever it is, it doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
We're moving forward. We're now in the bracket. Like you said, you've got to be able to walk outside, let some air hit you in the face, and move forward. And I do think that they're able to do that because one thing for Team Risk is it doesn't feel like it's that long ago where they can tap into their memory and remember who they were throughout this tournament, that unstoppable force. And the other unstoppable forces, they, for the most part, didn't even make it to this LAN, let alone Vegas.
That's a good point.
So it's really good for Team Risk to be able to look into the past and say, all right, we can still sense and remember that feeling. We just got to grab onto it and lock back in for this next set.
Not to mention they all have SMITE 1 World Champion rings. Like
that helps a little bit too.
Like
you can just go and
you're like
nice.
wait, we're those dudes. Like
That's
we are those dudes. We have proven that, and it's time to continue to prove it. But again, there's a lot of competition, a lot of young talent in a tournament like this as well that we've been hyping up so much. You have to be able to put the hours in, like to be able to prove that just because you were those dudes doesn't mean you're those dudes now.
Well, the months turned, the weeks turned to hours, turned to minutes, and it'll be minutes until we begin the Vegas bracket. A short break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, the Vegas bracket begins.